new, never-before-seen manga is available now for free on my new website, mangaletter.com. This includes unreleased ULTRA Vegito episodes, VE episodes, GR episodes, and an unbelievable amount more. Simply click the link in the description or pinned comment, enter your name and email using an active email, and boom, more manga will be in your inbox. Make sure to check your spam, junk, or other folder if you don't see it, and remember, this will never be released outside of Manga Letter. So sign up now, no excuses, it's free. There's over 132,000 members and counting. Enjoy. But before Vegito makes his move to absorb the energy of Boo, something unexpected catches the attention of the God Killer. Suddenly behind Vegito, a crash occurs. It's not clear what has happened yet, as in the distance, only a bunch of dust clouds can be seen. Vegito then tries to look in closer to observe what it could be. And on the ground is a totally new, never-before-seen figure. Armored up to the T, caped, and with a mysteriously massive sword in one hand. The figure then slowly stands up and with a look deadlocked on Vegito alone, then says, "Congratulations, God Killer, for you are the first being since Lucifer to result in my summoning. I am the first of the 5 strongest, and this day will be your death, Vegito." Huh? First of the 5 strongest? Leaving Vegito in as much of a confused state as the rest of us. So our story continues with Vegito looking at the mysterious new swordsman who had just arrived on the battlefield, moments before the God Killer was about to absorb the energy of Boo. And though the heavily armor-clad warrior stands silent, just staring into the eyes of Vegito without break, a puzzled Vegito would then question, "Huh? First of the 5 strongest, did you say? What on earth is that? Some kind of Korean pop band? I'm afraid you may be in the wrong manga, bud, because those words mean nothing to me." Before immediately, as if taking offense to Vegito's words, the swordsman swings his obnoxiously heavy blade, yelling, "Well, maybe this will mean something instead." Huh? What are you? Leading to Vegito momentarily stunned in place as he wonders what the figure even plans on doing from such a distance. As the black swordsman then callously brings down his blade with the force and intensity of a god, and just with one swing creates a torrential storm of wind and pressure that blows straight towards the God Killer and Boo. And immediately the deformed and disfigured Boo from earlier, with no energy left, is tossed into the wind like a helpless insect, flying far off while... Whoa, cool! Vegito, meanwhile, is hit so hard by the intense winds, his entire face begins to shift and blow back, as the high-pressure air reaches into every nook and cranny and cavity in his face. But in the aftermath, as the wind eventually stops, a smirking Vegito is left with his hands dropped back down and his torso arched, as he looks at the stranger responding, "Well, I'll be. All that from just one swing of that oversized butter knife? You're no weakling, are you? At least you better not be, because you've just got my hopes up for a real battle." Disgusting. But the disapproving warrior would just then place his giant sword back on his shoulder and begin saying, "You're just as the Grand Priest had described. A primitive mortal who knows only violence and bloodshed. Too stupid to even know when you are far out of your depths. How you survive so long fighting these so-called gods is beyond me. But this charade ends here, God Killer." Huh? But of course the mention of the Daishinkan in the first part of his reply instantly catches Vegito's attention, as he then remarks, "Wait a second, what did you just say? The Grand Priest? How would you know of him, even in this timeline?" To which the standing tall swordsman would just then briefly respond, "Probably because for starters, I am not from this timeline, my ape-like friend. I was sent here on the orders of the priest himself to eliminate you once and for all." What? Which suddenly triggers the enraged Saiyan, as he raises a clasped fist and suddenly becomes surrounded in black electricity all over, as he yells angrily, "So that's your game! You work for that damn midget! And I suppose by default, you're also a slave to Zeno too! An ally of the gods, and you know what that means, right, friend?" To which the swordsman, without a hint of trepidation, angling his head, would then say, "First of all, you do well to address Lord Zeno and Daishinkan with more respect, mortal. But no, please enlighten me. What exactly does it mean then?" "It means that you too must die now!" As Vegito, suddenly now displaying the same hunger for vengeance as he had for the gods, rushes in with killer intent, blasting forward right towards the hardly moving swordsman, reaching within touching distance in nanoseconds. As once face to face, the god killer would cock back his arm fully to administer one of his signature devastating punches. But unbelievably, even in his final form, some way somehow, his punch is caught with ease like a mere baseball in the palm of the swordsman's hands. He stopped me? This development, of course, taking Vegeta off guard, as this was the last thing he'd expect from one who is neither god nor angel, as the true power of his attack is seen for miles away, creating a shockwave that rocks the very earth itself, even when blocked. "You must have got lucky! Now get off!" But as Vegito then struggles to remove his fist from the grip of the stranger, he soon realizes just how futile the attempt is, as the swordsman does not budge even an inch. What? Leaving Vegito with a bemused look as he wonders internally, am I seeing this right? Or is this a fever dream? Why does it feel like I'm powerless next to this guy? It's like I'm glued into place. Just how strong is this metalhead's grip? It's pretty strong, God Killer. Instantly being interrupted with an answer from the swordsman, despite Vegito only thinking within his mind. What? You can read my mind? Leaving Vegito stunned, as he can only explain the stranger's outburst in one way. No, I can't. You're just that predictable. Instantly then moving his hand and breaking Vegito's wrist in the process. leaving Vegito at first shocked as the adrenaline and shock of the moment dulls his pain until... Taking in the pain of his own breaking so easily, he yells a blood-curdling scream in the face of the warrior. As meanwhile, the armored foe pulls back a fist of his own with conviction. Landing with extreme speed and extreme potency, as not even moments after being struck, Vegito's entire body is shot away, smashing through multiple mountains, going through them like pieces of paper in most likely one of the hardest hits the Saiyan had felt throughout the entire series. Whoa! Meanwhile though, noticing all of this of course are the Z fighters, with Goku saying, "And now look, this guy's even stronger than the last one. What's going on?" Where are they even coming from? While a triggered Vegeta says, This is absurd! I trained all this time just to surpass Kakarot, and out of nowhere, I'm being blown out of the water again! It's not fair! Damn it all! While the Supreme Kai, being the most nervous of the lot, just thinks, the 5 strongest. I know of them. I'd heard rumors that the Grand Priest was even among that group. Is that fellow really insinuating he's one of the 5? But not down and out yet. Vegito soon explodes with rage out of the rubble, sending rocks and boulders flying all over in the nearby vicinity. His right arm now missing its glove, exposing his rings but still deformed. He then grabs onto it and violently snapping it back into place despite the pain. And then with a newfound annoyance, he lifts up his now fixed up fist into the air and yells, "First of the 5 strongest, huh? Get real, and nobody like you is nothing! Allow me to introduce you to the strongest in the multiverse!" Before lowering his head with nothing short of a furious expression and continuing, "And allow me to introduce you to my body, as your energy will be mine!" Before a strange sound activated by his black eye then sounds off. But soon a look of surprise comes across the swordsman's face, but it isn't from Vegito's deadly threats, but instead, what? As the warrior looks into the sky, something far more alarming is seen, with 4 ominous figures in the sky shooting down towards him. And eventually when we zoom in, it is unbelievably revealed to be the ghostly apparitions of all 4 of the angels Vegito has absorbed thus far, with Margarita, Cognac, Vados, and Martinu all seen rushing down silently, but with ridiculous speed as expected of the angels. Seeing this from below, the warrior can't help but think, the angels. No doubt about it, the energy signatures are the same. So this is the cretin's power? Using the power of deceased angels for his own usage, and against their will? This blasphemy cannot be forgiven. As quickly, the swordsman swings his blade back, crouching his stance and readying himself until... He launches like a cannon, sword in hand, straight up and towards the 4 approaching angels. And instantly, in a flash, outclassing the speed of even the 4 Ultra Instinct users, the mystery warrior appears right in the thick of things, right in the middle of the 4 until... Grabbing his sword tightly and... Be at rest, my angels! before swiping his massive blade with the utmost of power. And in one fell swoop, it appears all 4 of the angels are sliced dead set right through the middle, with each of the ghostly angels left shocked as a result. And though despite the slice, nothing seems to come of the attack, the swordsman then turns his head in a look of respect and lets out, "I'm sorry. I vow to free you from this nightmare soon enough, my friends." Before immediately then vanishing from the spot, leaving the angelic apparitions even more bemused in his dust. Immediately then reappearing on the ground below again, staring above at his supposed victims until... launching his blade once again with force, he then... stabs the very earth with his blade as if trying to injure the planet itself, yelling as he does so, "Your suffering ends here!" And just like that, all 4 of the divine beings are sliced right through the middle unceremoniously, as if being affected by a highly delayed attack. What? Leaving the God-Killer near speechless as he watches on at the unlikely events, thinking to himself, He just took out 4 angels without breaking a sweat? There's no way! Ridiculous! In a flash, causing Vegito to become angered to the core, his body instantly once again creating sparks of black lightning out of his own volition, as he raises his right hand up and inexplicably then closes it tight. And almost in response, as if the planet were a slave to Vegito, the ground beneath the swordsman suddenly begins breaking apart to his surprise. And within an instant, a hole of massive proportions opens to a near bottomless pit beneath the warrior. And as he inevitably falls in, he wonders momentarily, what a primitive move. When would he have even had time to prepare this? Before beginning to fly back up thinking, how foolish anyway. Does he really believe I cannot just fly out? Before, just as he said, he then launches into the sky straight for the entrance of the hole. But just as he reaches the very top and his head begins to peek out, yet another shocking sight greets the ironclad fighter as his eyes grow wider and wider and he mutters, "No, this cannot be! The Destroyers!" As right in front of him now, stretched over a line, are the 5 gods of destruction that Vegito had absorbed. Kitella, Beerus, Belmod, Chomper and Topo included. But the worst was still to come. Hakai! As immediately, the reason their hands were stretched out becomes clear as simultaneously all of them release the Call of the Destroyers at full power straight down onto the helplessly trapped swordsman. What? Even the Destroyers are under his control? As the sight of the chosen Destroyers by Zeno himself being commanded by a mortal sends shivers down his spine. No! As not too soon after, under the might of 5 Destroyers Hakai, his very own body begins to erase right before his eyes. Even the strength of their destructive energy is intact! This is truly their power! As he becomes shocked at the confirmation that these are indeed no simple clones. But with this revelation, only anger fills the noble swordsman as he then says, "Forcing me to annihilate the angels of the Grand Priest is one thing, but now making me lift my finger against the gods themselves? You will pay for this, Vegito." As suddenly the swordsman lifts his sword wildly in the air, and mysteriously it becomes coated in a very familiar purple energy of his own. Blade of Destruction! And just like that, in yet another single swipe, the swordsman sends back the Hakai energy striking his body, back at the destroyers themselves, and with such force, it erases them near instantly, as the warrior just whispers under his breath, "Forgive me." This move, much like the one that took the angels out just as easily, finally breaks Vegito, as his hands drop, and with a look of pure disbelief, he begins internally reflecting. He can wield the power of Hakai too! He can outspeed the ultra instinct of the angels, and he took them all out in a matter of seconds! After everything I've been through, all the hardships, all those battles, have I truly been outclassed this much by some random freak? No, I refuse to believe this! As behind Vegito in his mind, a medley of all the progress and battles he had until this point flash before his eyes. Meanwhile though, the Dark Swordsman, now having dismantled the gods, just jumps up into the air, landing on the ground with a thud, his erased body returning back to normal, as he then once again stamps his massive sword right back down into the ground, as if the earth was his very own sheath. And now, staring at the God Killer with an unbridled look, he lets out coldly, "You. Never in all my life have I ever met a mortal with such disdain, such impudence, and disrespect for the creators. Beings such as yourself should not exist in this plane. The demon realm is the only place where your kind can remain trapped. And I will be the one to send you there, demon!" As his face suddenly then shifts to one of pure emotion and anger, his wide, yelling mouth almost even becoming visible under his mask as he swipes his blade back, ready to swing, as the sword itself suddenly becomes engulfed in an aura of its own, including black lightning that spontaneously bursts forth all around it. "Demon! The only demons here are those you work for, you slave!" As totally enraged and incensed by his foe's words, Vegito is quick to angrily yell back, "I'm the one who had everything taken from me! Millions upon millions of lives erased at the blink of an eye! And if those are your masters, then you too will share the same fate!" As immediately, Vegito's true full power begins to emerge, with the Zamasu halo he gained from fusing with black now reappearing on his back, as his right arm begins to become coated in a sinister dark aura too, until within the palm of his hands, a staff of energy appears right within his palm. Could it be some kind of angel staff? No. Call me the Grim Reaper, because this planet will be your grave, swordsman. As Vegito, with a massive grin and overflowing with sinister energy, reveals within his hand the Godslayer scythe, modeled exactly after Goku Black's own, making Vegito now the true bringer of death. Come here, slave boy! As Vegito, now full of confidence, with all three of the Saiyans within him being utilized, shoots forth with speed straight at the mystery warrior, beckoning him to do the same. Gladly! Which of course, the swordsman, having been confident the entire way through the chapter, kindly obliges, rushing in once again with his gigantic sword coated in energy in tow. And thunderously, their chosen weapons then clash head on. But they aren't colliding for long before the swordsman rotates his body like an elegant ballerina and prepares for yet another swift attack. This time crashing on the ground as the unprepared Vegito just narrowly dodges out of the way in time. Or at least, we thought. Since as once we get a fuller image of Vegito in the aftermath, his right arm shows a gashing wound leaking with blood. As Vegito, who already seems tired from the exchange, says, "Damn it, I'm not used to fighting with weapons. This freak must be some kind of sword master. Those moves are far from natural." Before looking down to inspect his wound, he continues, "That thing is no butter knife either. I'm fully powered up, and he still managed to slice my skin with the slightest of grazes. I need to be careful here. Otherwise, I might just have to visit Dr. Gero again." Well, if I can't win by outclassing you up close, then show me how you deal with this! As Vegito then instantly begins powering up in his hand an energy beam in response. A type of attack to this point in the story this swordsman had displayed no usage of, and Vegito knew it. Cut this, freak! Immediately tossing the high-powered energy ball that from the looks of it is designed to explode on impact no matter what it touches. But the opposing warrior, not taking the bait, as if utilizing Ultra Instinct, dodges to the side instantly, as the vicious beam shoots right past him. But with the same ridiculous speed as he showed against the Angels, within nanoseconds, before the beam had even completely gone past him, he reappears right behind the stunned Vegito, already in position to strike again, letting out, "You underestimate the power of the 5 strongest, mortal. A mistake you will soon regret." But Vegito, not one to be one-upped, immediately then displays his own speed, vanishing at the very last second. Reappearing miles away in the distance, perhaps in hopes of creating some space. But with the swordsman already noticing him, he lets out ominously, "Running away already, are you, demon? Get back down on the ground!" Immediately appearing within seconds with inexplicable speed yet again, and slamming his fist right onto the unprepared Godkiller. Leaving Vegito to crash land on the ground right on his backside, with now so much God Ki now used, his scythe and halo even disappear. As the injured Vegito comments, How is he moving like that? It's like he's using instant transmission, but even faster than I can even react. The 5 strongest. Do they really surpass even Ultra Instinct? eventually then getting onto one knee, raising his bruised body up with what's left of his strength as he continues. Even with all the energy of the gods, the angels, Black and the power of the margin seal, I can't keep up with him at all. That sword, could his power be linked to it somehow? He hasn't let go of it once. But almost as if the blade hurt him, it once again in classic style is stabbed into the ground. As the swordsman, still holding tight onto the handle as Vegito had noticed, then goads him. Give it up already, scum. In these weak universes, you may have convinced yourself of being powerful, slaughtering these second-class gods and angels, but you fail to realize the difference between gods and those that came even before them. There are levels to this game, mortal, and you're barely past the tutorial stage. I've seen children more powerful than you in my time. What did you say? This speech, however, does nothing more than fuel Vegito's anger even more, as he grips his fist tightly and yells back with Saiyan pride. Shut up with your lies! The things I've gone through, the power I've attained! You are no match for me, let alone the priest and that toddler. I refuse to believe it, and if you keep pushing me, you and this entire multiverse will find yourselves at the foot of a power that will haunt you forever! But unfazed by any of these threats, the swordsman just pulls out his sword once again with force and screams back, Enough with your insolence! You are nothing but a deluded insect in a world full of giants! Your story ends here and now! As in a completely unexpected move, the first of the 5 strongest then tosses his own sword with unprecedented speed, as it shoots off straight for Vegito, looking more like an energy beam than solid objects. But despite everything the first had said, in the end, Vegito just in the nick of time would be able to move and dodge completely from the blade's path, as it shoots past, with no sign of stopping anytime soon. This development leaving the godkiller of a smile, as Vegito then perhaps prematurely says, You see, that's what happens when you underestimate me. Now you have no sword and... What? But just as fast as the sword was thrown, so too does Vegito's facial expression turn to one of pure astonishment, as his eyes burst open wide along with his mouth, unable to say any more. And right in front of him again, with that miraculous speed, the black swordsman appears within touching distance of the godkiller. Instantly though, Vegito snaps back into action, and the two titans then clash together, one fist clasped by the other on either side, as both spew black lightning from each of their bodies, at first looking solidly into each other's eyes at a deadlock until, with a rageful change in expression, Vegito tenses his muscles and shouts, So! Now you think you can test my power without that little dagger of yours? I thought I told you not to underestimate me, but I guess you weren't listening. Bow down to me! As immediately with no more words to be said, both Vegito and the armored warrior yell at the top of their voices, as each becomes surrounded in an almighty aura. And distance, just the standstill of the two struggling creates a concentrated mass of energy so large and so powerful it would erase any and everything that would dare come close to its vicinity. But of course, still in the background, utterly powerless to do a thing, Goku and the Z-Fighters carry on watching as their very planet rips apart. As Goku comments, I've never seen anything like this. Just their auras are doing all this. If this keeps up, the Earth will be done for. But while the Supreme Kai is in a similar state of shock and awe, he would just think, This is unbelievable. What should I do? Would Beerus even be able to do anything to these two? But as the Z-Fighters watch on, back with the God Killer, a stunning development has been made. As finally, the stalemate has seemingly been broken, and the Swordsman, with what looks like a panicked look on his face, is forced somehow onto one knee. Of course, all the while, a smiling Vegito continues to push down as he yells, Yes, like I told you, bow down to me! And now absolutely brimming with arrogance and confidence, after proving himself that he is in fact stronger than the so-called 5 strongest, Vegito, with a truly demonic smile, would then let out, I told you! I truly told you! Just as much as Gohan told Cell. Once you pushed me, there would be no going back! There are no limits for us Saiyans, and your energy is now No! But just as things finally began turning out good for Vegito, suddenly, from behind, a certain sharp object seemingly slices the preoccupied and still gripped by his foe, Vegito. Overpower me! Get real! Leading to the Swordsman then letting go of the paralyzed Vegito, before then jumping straight into the air to catch his flying sword. The same object that just pierced right through the God Killer. And at first, there is no reaction, but as soon as the handle is grabbed, in some of the most brutal and bloody scenes of the entire series, the aftermath of the attack is finally seen, with Vegito cut through perfectly through not only his stomach, but also through his right arm also. A stunned look on his face as his body parts begin to separate due to gravity, with him just muttering, You got me. How? Before the slam, simultaneously his severed arm and torso fall to the ground, while his spurting with blood lower half just drops to its knees. And with his chin now dug into the dirt, the still completely gobsmacked faced Vegito, laced with adrenaline in shock, leaves him muttering nonsensically, This can't be the end! I'm afraid it is, God Killer. But the Swordsman, not letting up with his now absolute humiliation of Vegito, then looking down at his prey would say, You truly thought so much of yourself to believe even as a lowly mortal, you could overpower one of the 5. And it's that overconfidence and naivety that will lead to your demise here. You have lived for decades, while us higher beings have survived for millennia. You could have never reached our level, let alone that of the Daishinkan. And now, I must be the one to dirty my blade with your wretched blood. Before the armored foe would then walk closer to the downed Vegito and immediately lift his sword above his head and right in line with Vegito's neck, ready to finish the God Killer in the most gruesome of ways, while Vegito, trying to clutch onto any way to survive, would yell, "No! No! My time rings! I'll be back! I have 7 lives!" To which the swordsman, still holding his sword, would just coldly respond, "Do you really believe that? Or have you conveniently forgotten that I chopped that hand of yours too? There's no coming back from this one. No plot armor, and no arch to save you from this one." What? My hand! No! Stop! Leaving Vegito to yell one final time in vain before... Die, God Killer! So our story continues with the still unnamed mysterious swordsman, prone and posed ready with his sword still above his head, ready to behead Vegito in one fell swoop. But before he does so, he has something to say. God Killer, before you go, before you leave this realm forever, tell me, is there anything you'd like to say? Any final words to utter out into the cosmos? Words of regret, words of anger. Say them now, and I shall remember them, even if nobody else will. To which the now seemingly at peace with the situation, but grumbling Vegito would then reply, "Last words, huh? You couldn't get any more corny if you tried, Iron Man. I don't even know your name, just that you're part of this so-called 5 strongest, and that no matter what I did, I couldn't beat you. What final words does someone that pathetic need to say? Just be done with it already." To which the Black Swordsman would then respond, "Though you are correct, even with that blasphemous power you stole, you were no match for me. You were still far stronger, at least, than expected. You have earned the right to know my name in your final moments, warrior. My name is Guts, first of the 5 strongest." Guts? The hearing of this name sparks moderate interest in Vegito for some reason, as he briefly lets out, "That name, it sounds familiar. Guts. I will remember that. Maybe one day we can fight again." But the still professional and stone-cold executioner, not interested in comforting the God Killer in any way, would then just respond, "Not in 1 billion years, Vegito. Once I slaughter you here, you will enjoy the other world for less than a second, before I erase you myself from existence. You and I will never meet again, and nor will you ever get to see the Grand Priest or Zeno. You've caused untold damage to this multiverse already. 9 of the 12 universes no longer even have gods or angels to watch over them now. And us members of the strongest will now have to be called in to take their place temporarily." Before the scene shifts to Vegito's severed hand, and the swordsman continues, "And not to mention what lunacy you created in all these timelines you should have never entered. All things must be corrected, and yet again, it will fall to us and the Time Patrol to fix things." I hope you enjoyed your little joyride, but you finally run out of gas. As in a tempered but reserved laugh, knowing still that his time was over, Vegito, trying to make light of the situation, would then say, "Did I really cause that much trouble? Funny, I hadn't noticed. Well, it was a good ride. But hey, at least it took the best of the 5 strongest to take me down in the end. As a Saiyan, my pride can't help but be pleased with that. I heard from Whis once, even the priest was a part of the 5. So if I'd just beaten you, he would have been done for too." No. But almost as if not able to let Vegito die with his fallacies, Guts looks down and reveals coldly, "You couldn't be further from the truth. And honestly, it's too pathetic to watch you go on and not correct you. The 5 strongest in the multiverse used to contain the Daishinkan, but no longer does. I am the first, and by that, I mean I am the weakest. All 4 above me surpass my power, and the Daishinkan, he exists even further beyond than that." No! As suddenly the painful realization of the reality of the matter strikes Vegito at force, as his own weakness in the grand scheme of things is then spread out right before him. In a state of complete denial, he mutters, "That can't be true! But why can't I sense any hesitation in your voice? I trained so long. I made the destroyers and angels look like playthings. And you're telling me I was still so far below Zeno and the Grand Priest? No! What was this all for then?" "Silence! You've said enough, God Killer!" As Guts, no longer willing to wait any longer, grips his blade tight and then... With the ferocity and anger of all the gods and angels Vegito had slain, Guts then swipes his blade, head on now, straight for the God Killer's neck, with this time no looking back. Huh? What? But just as he reaches mid-swing, something catches Guts' eye from behind that he just cannot ignore. What is that? As unbelievably out of nowhere, the Majin Buu we had all completely forgotten about rises as a wave of pink goo right behind Guts, ready to make one of the 5 strongest his own. Which all happens so fast, mid-swing, Guts instantly vanishes, saving himself from whatever this stranger with God Key was. Boo! Leaving Vegito also shocked, but unable to process yet whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. But with Boo missing the first, he instead slams onto the body of the downed ULTRA Vegito. His torso, severed legs, and hand included, as it seems Vegito may have just fell to an even worse fate in the end. No! As in the end, slowly but surely, all of Vegito then becomes one with Boo, as his lifeless legs move further and further into the pink goo. Eventually, we see high in the air where Guts had reappeared, far and away from any danger as he stares down at the pink vicious mess on the ground in confusion. As he looks on disgusted, he thinks to himself, "What just happened? What was that? A creature from this planet? Impossible. Its key felt divine, ancient, like it had been around even before my time. And now what? It seems to be feeding on the God Killer. Did it just steal my kill? Before soon enough, we all observe as the mass of pink goo condenses down into what seems like a small circle. Too small to be fitting the entirety of Vegito's body. And the Swordsman, too, watching from above, also makes his own deductions as he says, It actually appears that whatever that thing is, it is killing him. I can sense Vegito's life force fading away quickly. Sorry, God Killer, but it seems karma predestined you a fate even more gruesome than I had intended. How fitting. The same planet you fought to avenge is the same on which you will die. My job here is done, even if I didn't manage to retrieve those time rings. And Guts, thinking he has eliminated his target, just as the Grand Priest had requested, he then begins flying further into the air, before totally turning his body and flying off back from wherever he first came. Just thinking, that God Killer, his power was something else. To think mortals could not only possess God Ki, but find a way to take it from true gods too. But as Guts leaves, a new development begins back with Boo as the blob begins to move, before then rising up slowly into a human-sized statue of pink sludge. Until finally, a pair of familiar feet and familiar gloves then reaches out of the goo as if the goo itself was formulating the figure. As shockingly, in the aftermath of everything, once the pink goo had fully molded itself, Majin Buu finally appears once again, now unbelievably clad in Vegito's full gi. Gloves and footwear all repaired, at first seeming his usual dead silent self until... Boo won! I told you! You should have never messed with me, human! As the new Ultra Boo then suddenly bursts out in a maniacal laugh that not only fits what we once knew of Boo in the original timeline, but of course, that of Ultra Vegito too. Whoa! Boo's back! Did he just absorb the other guy? Gosh, I wonder how strong he is now. Leaving Goku from far away shocked at what he's seeing, with a hint of sane curiosity over his strength. While... Kakarot! This isn't good, you clown! He was out of our league already, but now if he has that other one's power too! While the Supreme Kai, who is far more fearful and full of dread over the situation than anyone else, just steps back whispering, No, it's too late. I failed as Supreme Kai. Not even Beerus could beat this Boo now, and I let it happen. We need to leave. What now? As finally the Swordsman is last to react to the loud roar and power of the new Boo, as he then realizes, wait a minute, this energy is the same as the God Killers. No, it's even greater! Immediately then vanishing, and then reappearing back on the ground confidently before the powered up Boo. Boo, noticing himself the Swordsman, which he knows to be no pushover, then immediately returns to quiet, though Black Lightning continues to surround him along with his monstrous new aura. Then inquiring, what do you want? You want to fight Boo too? To which the cold as ice Guts would say back, well, that depends. Boo is your name, you say? Tell me who you are. Because that key you possess is not something from this low-level planet. And most importantly, tell me if you're a danger to this universe. Because if so, I will have to end you here. But hearing this in almost classic Godkiller style, the new Boo begins to chuckle, but not for the reasons we'd expect, as he says with a smile, finally, someone on this planet who hasn't got violence on their mind 24/7. No, I am no danger to this planet, let alone universe. Boo seek peace, quiet, and food. Now, if that is all settled, I will see you, But for some reason, Boo's peaceful speech is then instantly cut short, as he looks to the sky with wide eyes, as if his body is frozen in place. No, not you again! As he yells loudly, still in the same position, until we peer deep within the confines of Boo, into his inner workings, and finally find ULTRA Vegito, of course trapped within the body of Boo, unconscious and encased in a thick, meaty, brain-like pod that resembles a strange Scotch egg. And as we zoom in on his uncharacteristically calm face, we see though he is completely silent, he remains in his final form until... Within a flash, ULTRA Vegito the God-Killer opens his eyes once more, with his signature sound of his black eye ringing through. No, stop it! And once more the new Majin Boo is left to react in confusion again until... The creature screams to the heavens themselves in intense pain, as if he is being murdered from the inside. As he then suddenly slams his own hands onto his face in terror, as if trying his best to stop something exploding outwards. Immediately in the process of doing this, ULTRA Boo releases a flurry of energy once more, so much so it even momentarily blows back the first. Until eventually, looking on with a puzzled look, Guts thinks, what now? What's happening to this thing? This power level is reaching dangerous levels. It's reminding me of... But as Guts thinks deeply on what's happening before his eyes, ULTRA Boo's arms finally drop down as his groans quieten down. Whatever was happening to him has finally stopped, but just what was the result? Well, hello there! Funny seeing you again, Guts! As shockingly, it is finally revealed that ULTRA Boo had then morphed into a spitting image of Vegito himself, complete with his voice and personality. But how? His margin symbol even missing, as Vegito now becomes a literal margin. You're back! How? Causing even the normally cool and collected swordsman to stumble back in absolute disbelief, as he questions further, why are you back in one piece? Why are you fully healed? Where is Boo? Leaving the God-Killer to just giggle in classic style, as he then begins to finally explain, well, It's simple, Mr. First of the Five Strongest. Boo is me now. Just as Bubbity's Margin Seal had no effect on controlling me, so did Margin Boo's attempt at making me a part of him. My willpower alone turned the tables, and now Boo is a part of me. Oh, ridiculous! I knew I should have taken that blob out. Leading to Guts immediately swinging his blade up in anger as he continues. Take as many beings as you want into you. If this job is not done yet, then I'll simply just do it again. As without warning, Guts, with pinpoint precision and intense speed, slices through Vegito once again, in almost the exact same fashion, and once again, Vegito is left in two pieces. No! No! Not again! Just kidding. As in a sudden, inexplicable shift of tone and mannerisms, Vegito begins smiling dastardly, and without pain, despite visibly having just been cut in half. What a glorious ability this Boo has! Utterly amazing! As unbelievably we then get to see the true confirmation of what Vegito had said about becoming Boo himself, as almost immediately, flakes of pink goo begin bridging the two parts of Vegito's body, regenerating him instantly as if he was never cut in the first place. What? What sorcery is this? God Killer, what are you? But his yelling contempt is interrupted with lightning speed, as Vegito finally lands a punch on the swordsman, even wielding a smile as he says, I think I'm just about done listening to your screams, mister. I think it's high time you went to sleep. As immediately, with just that simple jab, the power it unleashes sends the legendary first of the five strongest crashing through multiple mountains to a thunderous collision against the final wall. Once again alarming the totally ceased in disbelief Supreme Kai, who lets out, That's a Saiyan? He just landed an attack on one of the five! That can't be possible. It said even the Grand Priest considers them near his level. As when we return back to Guts, he lies sat with his sword stabbed into the ground, having used it to forcefully stop him flying any further back, as he then thinks, his power and speed. This is on a whole new level than before. But why? Just what was that creature from before? And why has it made such a difference? It's almost like his power has been multiplied. But whatever this is, I cannot let him touch me again. That will be the last of his demonic hands dirtying my being. Dirtying your being? When was the last time you even washed that armor, you pile of junk? As suddenly, an extremely familiar and witty voice we all know calls from afar. And of course, when Guts finally does turn around, it is revealed to be none other than ULTRA Vegito standing behind on a distant mountaintop. Quickly, Guts in response then jumps back to gain further distance and survey the situation better. Before internally he thinks, his presence, I can hardly detect it now. His speed, It's so fast, I can never tell where he is at any one time anymore. Something has happened to him. Did he truly become what he warned me of? But as we zoom in closer, we see the Saiyan standing tall with his arms folded and looking down smugly saying, "Oh, you poor fool. I bet your mind can hardly compute what's going on now, can it? It's simple really though. I am not the same man you fought earlier. I am now the most powerful Boo in history. I've tossed away my humanity in order to kill the likes of you and your damn leader." Not the biggest leap though, after becoming part android. But for the sake of delivering justice, I will do anything. Before the more wide smile, he continues on, "Tremble, for I am no longer this feeble mortal you gods love to keep calling me. I am something far scarier. A monster. A thing of nightmares that will now add you to my collection of souls. Come here and give me your energy, Swordsman." As Vegito then slowly lifts up one finger in what looks like a very familiar scene to OG Dragon Ball Z fans. And then immediately coats the finger in its very own aura as he goads the legendary warrior. "Accept your fate, Guts. Just try and slice me up. You will see firsthand just how large the gap between us is now. And all I'll need is this one finger to stop you." What? This total disrespect, of course, not going down well at all with Guts as he stands astonished at Vegito's insolence after only just minutes earlier being on the foot of death. As he yells, "One finger? This damn demon now thinks so little of me to bluff so sparingly. How dare you! I shall show you why the Blade of Destruction is feared even by the demons!" Immediately rushing in at the still overconfident Vegito, while Vegito just stands motionless with a smile commenting, "Feared by the demons, you say? What an interesting tidbit of information, my friend." Until finally, Guts swings his blade with full might, but unbelievably, with a metallic clang, Vegito does indeed stop the blade with just his finger alone. And on, not believing this to be possible, Guts would try his luck over and over, chopping away at Vegito as the God Killer moves his finger in synchronicity, blocking each and every swipe. Impossible! Eventually leaving the tired from fatigue Guts to just finally stop and stare, not being able to even comprehend what is even happening now, as he thinks, "This is the Blade of Destruction! One of the legendary demon emperors resides within this sword! How could a mortal so easily withstand such a weapon?" But Vegito, now taking his own turn, is quick to already cock back his own right fist and striking the swordsman square in the chest, sending Guts flying back as a result, as the impact makes itself shown. As the callous Vegito, filled with ominous aura, would then say, "A legendary demon emperor within that sword? What an interesting thing to say. And you believe for some reason these demon emperors would have some effect on me? I don't know how strong those things are supposed to be, but a possible explanation for why they don't affect me is because now I too am a demon! As Vegito, with a truly frightening look, then lets out a chilling line, just like he did once before, and yet again, as he says this playful joke, behind him, the silhouette of what looks like a true devil-formed creature appears right behind him. Demon! Instantly shell-shocking Guts like never before, as he stays stunned with his eyes wide open, and he begins to mutter, "No, this feeling I'm getting, it cannot be. This mortal, is he the second coming of Lucifer? For the sake of Zeno, no, for the sake of the entire multiverse, I must stop him here and now!" Giving the Black Swordsman no choice now but to unleash his maximum power, unleashing a truly godly amount of ki and power that we had never seen the likes of, far beyond any angel and any destroyer could even dream of, as somehow the Earth manages to contain it without exploding. From a distance, all we can see is a massive beam of ki shooting into space, as waves and waves of thunderous wind and debris blow all over the island. While Vegito, now losing his smile and looking on seriously as he respects what he sees, then comments, "So, he's finally showing his true power. The power of the 5 strongest. This will be my greatest test yet." And just like that, as if they were on a time limit, the two monstrous warriors rush in at each other to give the universe a battle of more power than it had ever seen since the dawn of creation. As Vegito, covered in his signature black lightning, launches with fury in his eyes, while Guts, now almost ripping his mask as his teeth are bared, screams as he shoots towards the God Killer. But Vegito starts off the exchange, throwing an energy beam straight at Guts while he rushes forward. This again, I'll just dodge it again and... But as the beam finally reaches him, Guts finds himself forcefully having to deflect it with his blade, as the fragmented parts shoot behind him to create explosions in the background. Inside thinking, damn it, even his energy blasts are far more powerful and intense than before. I have to fight everything head on now. And with that said, Guts continues his forward assault, massive sword in hand and conviction on his mind to end the God Killer once and for all. All the while, Vegito already begins preemptively shifting his body backwards. But as we see multiple after images of Guts' arm and sword slicing in all directions trying to get a stab at the God Killer, so too do we see multiple after images of a smiling Vegito too, effortlessly dodging every swipe as if dodging attacks from Yamcha. Why won't you die already? And eventually, as more and more of Guts' efforts go unrewarded, he finally resorts to pure rage, as his muscles visibly bulk up with veins protruding on his biceps. With a terrifying yell, brings down his sword harshly one final time. As instantly, despite the monstrous pulling down on the sharp-edged blade, it stops right in front of Vegito, stone cold and not moving an inch closer to cutting through the God Killer. Is that all? Maybe this was a butter knife after all. As Vegito is then chillingly revealed to have stopped the entire force of the blade with just his bare hands alone, still smiling and not with a single sweat broken. My turn! But done with the humiliation, Vegito finally showcases his own power and speed, and instantly, with a foot that rises out of nowhere, Guts is uppercutted straight into the sky. And as soon as he does so, Vegito begins powering yet another surprise, as within his right hand, the God Slayer energy blade is engaged once more before... In a shocking sight, Vegito then slices straight through the sword-wielding arm of Guts. With such speed, precision, and unexpected surprise, even the Black Swordsman is left watching for a moment, completely taken by shock until... What? What have you done, demon? As finally the pain and horror of the situation hits the legendary member of the Five. Probably the first in history he would ever have to draw blood, and one of the only times he would forcibly be separated from his divine blade. No! My blade of destruction! I had no choice. I must wield it with my weaker arm now! As finally the hand begins to separate from Guts' body, automatically opening its clasp, simultaneously freeing the sword, while Guts in the same moment desperately attempts to grab it with his last remaining arm. And eventually, the legendary sword is caught once again, firm and safely. But unfortunately not by Guts, and instead by our hero, ULTRA Vegito the God Killer, as he comments, "Whoa, this is a heavy one, even heavier than the Z-Sword. No! Give that back now! You will pay 1,000-fold if you take even one swing of that blade! I warn you! You have no idea what lurks within!" Leaving the damaged Guts to grab onto his bleeding stump of an arm while yelling in complete panic at Vegito. But the God Killer, totally unfazed and disregarding Guts' pleas, just swings the blade down and says, "What lurks within, huh? You did mention something about a demon emperor, didn't you? Well, hopefully, just like the Z-Sword, once I break this thing in half, slamming it on your forehead, maybe this little devil will come out for me. Because Lord knows, I need a new challenge after facing a weakling like you." When did you... And suddenly, just as soon as Vegito had said this, as if using instant transmission without a hand sign, Vegito suddenly then appears right in front of Guts, face to face, as the God Killer lets out, "Sorry if this makes you feel uncomfortable. I just wanted to see the fear in your eyes before I kill you." And for a moment, there is a deathly silence as neither side moves, one not moving due to being so paralyzed in fear, while the other doesn't make a move in an act of intimidation until... Blade of Destruction! Vegito, with his mouth wide open, then yells out the words only previously uttered by Guts, activating the destroyer powers of the sword and... immediately then making perfect use of the sword he just stole, effortlessly swiping in all directions, but perfectly slicing through 4 particular spots. Oh! As in the aftermath, we then see where those spots were, as in a horrific scene with blood-curdling screams. Guts, the Master Swordsman, a legendary member of the Five, has both his arms and legs cut off instantly, and all by his own beloved sword. As with a look of pure astonishment, he can only mutter as the blood pours out. My sword, what have you done? While each of his cut-off limbs, under the power of the Blade of Destruction, immediately then begin to erase, also, one by one. In the end though, Vegito does not give his victim so much as a glance, as he stares into the stolen sword and says, Not bad at all. Seems this blade can not only repel destruction power, but it can wield it too. Thanks for the gift, my friend. You're too kind. But there's one more thing I want to take from you. I hope you don't mind. As Vegito then slowly but surely begins taking measured steps towards the burst. As Guts, now flat on the ground helpless, just murmurs, No! Stay away! Stay away, you demon! Leaving Vegito to eventually stand above the helpless swordsman, looking down as he goes, Now, don't be like that. I thought we were starting to become friends. Now, before I take that energy of yours, do you have any last words, Guts? As Vegito then slowly brings his grip right for the throat of the swordsman, leaving Guts to panic and yell, watching helplessly, You keep your filthy hands off me, God Killer! Fitting final words for such a weakling, Guts! As instantly, Vegito cuts short the final remarks and grabs Guts hard, beginning his energy absorption immediately as black aura seeps deep into his skin. And with Guts having so much more energy than any god and angel before him, the process is not fast, allowing him to yell in terror as it happens. Oh my! And Vegito, absorbing the energy for the longest time he's ever had to, then comments with a grin, This power, it's unbelievable! It's never ending. You are so far beyond anyone I have ever fought before. And this energy is going to take me to a whole new level. Keep going! Give me everything you have, Guts! As Vegito, in a greedy rage, raises the swordsman's entire body up into the air, as if he were a water bottle with some final drops of water to shake out. Your energy is mine! As even Vegito soon begins to struggle, taking in the unfathomable amount of ancient energy and power coming from the first of the 5 strongest. His teeth gritted as his body struggles to contain it all. But eventually, everything is taken. And with Vegito grabbing so hard, at the very end, he snaps the swordsman's neck too, killing him instantly in the process. Tossing his now lifeless body to the ground as if it were a piece of trash. Before, now left standing, looking into the palm of his left hand, now covered in its own black lightning, overflowing with energy like never before, a smile creeps across the God Killer's face, as he then comments, So, this is the kind of power I must wield to defeat those two. What an amazing feeling. What a rush. I've never felt anything like this before. I need more! As immediately out of nowhere, Vegito then screamed at the top of his voice as all the incredible energy within him begins to explode outwards. It doesn't end there as the aura becomes larger and larger and in rapid timing. And from a distance, eventually we see a dome of energy encompassing nearly the entire island beginning to generate from Vegito alone. It even almost appears as though Vegito is self-destructing from the power. But unfortunately, he is not the only one there. No! What? No! Everyone, get out! As the Z Fighters too, despite their huge distance away, all become lost in the light of Vegito's almighty new level of power. Suddenly, a mysterious foreign foot slams down onto the chocolate bar, shattering it into pieces before Vegito. What? Leaving the God Killer in a moment of complete shock to stare up the leg of the assailant and meet his eyes with someone he and the rest of us had never seen before. And shockingly standing there before Vegito is yet another strange masked man. More sadistic and evil looking than Guts ever did, clad in what seems like samurai armor with long flowing silver hair. Staring with an emotionless, creepy mask on, the figure would then let out, My, God Killer. Were you truly about to eat your own son? You're as abhorrent as the priest said. No wonder they called me. Allow me to introduce myself as Madara, the second of the 5 strongest. What? Another one! Leaving Vegito gobsmacked as his aim of meeting yet another of the 5 had finally come true. But in the form of perhaps a warrior, he will now live to regret to have ever met. So our story continues with Vegito in a positively confused state, still as a Super Saiyan, staring at the strange new masked man before him. The same man who had just proclaimed himself as the second of the 5 strongest. But with crumbling and smushing of the chocolate bar that is Gotenks, the warrior's foot would move off, leaving the creepy masked fellow then to let out an apology. Sorry about ruining your little treat, friend. That was your offspring that I just clumsily stepped on, wasn't it? How thoughtless of me. Though I'm sure Cronoa won't mind losing 2 weaklings like that. Trunks! Goten! But soon a feeling of shocking realization comes over Vegito, as he figures out finally that with that crushing stomp, so too did he lose his sons once more, again, to the hands of a god. What have you done? As instantly Vegito enraged powers up immediately to his Super Saiyan 3 form and quickly follows up, You'll pay for that, scum! Rushing in at Madara with conviction and pure anger in his heart, with the blade in destruction in his right hand, ready to slice through the enemy before him. Far too slow. But instantly, and I mean in the splittest of seconds, out of nowhere, Madara pulls out a sword of his own, a katana which slices through the air like nothing and immediately sends Madara's body moving straight forward a few feet, as if moving on a conveyor belt. But behind him is the real shocker as... flying through the air above a headless and spurting bloody body is the decapitated chopped head of ULTRA Vegito. Soaring through the air helplessly as in one fell swoop, the God Killer is eliminated. And in his final sounds before death, Vegito's now pupilless eye face just makes incoherent sounds as his furiously leaking skull just slowly flies through the sky. While Madara, quickly from a view behind, shows himself now beginning to sheathe back his katana, having done his job. All the while, the now energyless body of Vegito drops its blade and soon begins dropping to the ground itself. And with a sadistic look on his unmoving mask, Madara would then, with a painted smirk, just say, My, I am not the one to be attacking without doing your research, my silly friend. That was an unfortunate mistake to have made. Before eventually, as his katana finally clinks into place, just as perfectly timed, so too does Vegito's lifeless head finally slam to the ground, and instantly also revert back to base in the process. And immediately following this, as if totally disappointed in what had just happened, Madara slams his palm onto his mask and lets out, "Seems just like I thought. That damn priest was overreacting. To disturb me of all people for something as lowly as this? This creature, the so-called God Killer, defeated before I even had the chance to break a sweat. Seems like the gap between the gods of this realm and the beings of the beyond have just gotten wider and wider. All you fools needed to do was anger this brute and wait for his comically telegraphed attack. Guts. Did you really lose to this scum? And to think you had the audacity to believe you could become the strongest of the five one day. Ha 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 ha. Once a dreamer, always one." Madara would then turn his body to look at his victim and continue, "So now what do? I did say to bring him in alive if possible, but I guess that's out of the question now. Does he really expect me to bring in a bloody corpse instead? For what reason? A mortal shouldn't even be stepping foot into the land of the divine anyway." But as his sights see the whole picture of Vegito's headless body, he notices too the giant sword that is also directly next to him, and then comments, "There is that, isn't there? Guts' blade of destruction, with a demon emperor within that. As lazy as I am, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to leave that behind. I'll take that back instead. Surely a heck of a lot more valuable than this Saiyan trash." And so Madara would then slowly and nonchalantly begin walking towards the decrepit body of Vegito, aiming to retrieve the blade that was formerly owned by the first. As he looks down though, he can't help but think, this blade lost its value 1,000-fold the minute it began being wielded by such a weakling. Guts, you managed to defeat and seal one of the legendary emperors of the demon realm, albeit one of the weakest ones. Yet, You couldn't defeat this thing? What a disgrace you've put upon the five. I'm glad I at least restored a portion of our honor. Before then reaching his hand out, without a worry, in sight, towards the blade of destruction. Almost as if being a member of the five itself gained him all the rights to its usage. But just as Madara approaches, the unthinkable begins to happen, even surprising the being who had lived for far longer than even the gods themselves. Why, you sneaky! As out of nowhere, moving on its own volition, the blade of destruction suddenly swipes forward, clearly aiming straight for the head of Madara. But on its second powerful swipe, Madara this time is quick to pull back out his own katana and block the massive blade despite the difference in size, as he laughs. What a bizarre turn of events. Seems traveling here wasn't a complete waste of time. Eventually pushing the blade back as Madara too jumps back to gain some distance. For a minute, he watches on in silence, observing what the sword is even doing, before commenting, I know what this could be. The demon locked within. Perhaps the seed is weakening. This might just be its attempt at escaping. If that happens, this will turn into a completely different chapter. But as Madara thinks, the blade soon travels on its own accord away from the second, and suddenly is grabbed by a mysterious yet familiar hand without a sound coming from its supposed assailant. And shockingly, standing there inexplicably on its own, is the headless body of Vegito, upright and still spurting blood from the various jugular veins, gripping onto the blade tightly, while above, the very head of the God Killer moves slowly towards the decapitated neck, as if held together by puppet strings. Until eventually, Vegito's deceased head begins leaking pink fluid into the cavity of his body, before attaching and then slowly turning around 180 degrees as if now a zombie, leaving the head finally with its eyes closed and completely silent until... Guess who's back? With a vicious smile and veins protruding all over his face as his blood circulation returns, Vegito would then return to the living world. Unkillable now, with the power of Majin Buu within him. And though Madara would stand confused, Vegito right in front of him would remain sword in hand and stare him down, letting out, Well, well, well. Fancy meeting you here again. You got me good with that last attack. But I hope you know, I only let you kill me to test out the abilities of Buu. Piquing the interest and curiosity of Madara, as he thinks to himself, the abilities of Buu? What in the name of Zeno could he possibly mean? This is a curious state of affairs, though. I was told the God Killer was just a mere mortal, one from a warrior race of evolved primates known as the Saiyans. But if my eyes do not deceive me, this scum just cheated death. Am I fighting an immortal? Huh, wouldn't be the first time. But the still thoroughly pleased with himself Vegito, now wiping away the blood from his chin, would then say, I don't know what you're muttering to yourself over there, Mr. Second of the Five, but I'm oh so glad you showed yourself finally. You know, I was starting to wonder just how I was going to run into one of you clowns again. I mean, I don't even have a single idea about what you guys look like, let alone what universe. So I don't think my staff would have been any help. But now you're here, I gotta say, you're a whole lot smaller and weaker looking than Guts. Are you sure your energy's gonna be even somewhat comparable? How funny. But in response, almost as if uncontrollable, Madara just bursts out into an eccentric laugh as he looks to the God Killer from the side of his eye and says, "Smaller, I'll give you that. I just don't need such cumbersome muscles to wield my blade. But weaker? What an odd thing to say, considering Guts was once my student." You talk Guts? Instantly leaving Vegito in a state of shock as his earlier underestimations are all proven wrong. That is until... Perfect! With a horrid, demon-like look, with his grin widening to inhuman size and length, Vegito would yell in excitement, "So you will be an even greater challenge for me then, and in turn, an even greater feast! Oh my, I can only imagine what your energy will taste like! I'm tired of these filthy gods and angels! Feed me it now!" Causing Vegito to then roar thunderously as his body bulks up even larger than ever before and he reaches his max power level, yelling as loud as he can as energy and aura overflows from his body along with the crumbling rocks of the planet, all being broken apart by the ravaging signature black lightning that accompanies him. As Madara stands before it, he, just as Vegito said, begins to look smaller and smaller, even to us. And that kind of power is no joke even to the second, as the pure pressure and wind force being generated by Vegito's power-up causes even him to cover his masked face, as he peers at the shocking sight through one eye. But deep within the thoughts of the second, something comes to mind, as he thinks, "Oh dearie me. So this is what the Grand Priest was so alarmed about. This is the power of the God Killer. What a surprise. This does indeed far surpass the energies of those minor gods and angels. Dare I say, this energy seems to even surpass Guts by some margin. In fact, it seems familiar in nature. But why? Does this have something to do with why this animal keeps spouting about tasting my energy?" "This time it'll be your head that falls, Madara!" Immediately leading to Vegito rushing in with vengeance and bloodlust, straight for Madara, with his giant sword lifted ready to swing with far more vigor than ever before. And not one to shy away, Madara just remains in place, moving into a defensive position with his katana immediately drawn, and through his still smirking mask would say, "Straightforward telegraphed attacks once again? You mortal types never seem to learn your lessons, do you?" And instantly, their two swords clash with overwhelming power, Madara's speed being matched finally now by Vegito in his max power form, with even Madara noting, "Oh, So this is going to go a little different, is it? While the vigorously trying Vegito will just flex his muscles, giving it literally everything he has to push back against Madara's swing. Thinking to himself, this little twerp, why does it feel like his blade swings packs far more of a punch than even guts? I'm giving it my all here, but I suppose I wouldn't even know if he is too, with that damn mask covering his face. Eventually allowing Madara to momentarily overpower Vegito and swing his blade through, while Vegito quickly moves back. This of course not being unnoticed by Madara, who comments, "Oh, so the primitive ape knows not to just attack? I applaud your attempt at movement, ape boy. But you are not getting away from me that easily! Damn it!" As immediately, Madara pulls back and swings his blade once again, straight onto Vegito, who defends narrowly with the Blade of Destruction. His teeth gritted and his body covered in electricity as it becomes more and more obvious just how out of his depth he seems to be in this sword battle. I haven't got all day for you to just be blocking, God Killer. And with the second's patience running out with Vegito's defensive mindset, the second immediately perfectly transitions to a vicious kick that moves Vegito's blade instantly. What the? Taking the God Killer by surprise, as in his rookie state as a swordsman, he completely had been unaware that had even been an option. No, I'm open! And when the scene zooms out, the effect of the kick is seen, as Vegito's Blade of Destruction is moved all the way to his right by force, even scraping along the ground, while Madara remains in perfect flight and in perfect stead to slice down at any moment. But despite the obvious route for attack, Madara adds even more of an edge up his sleeve, as he soon appears right behind Vegito in his blind spot and giggles. Remember, God Killer, it is only you who makes predictable moves. What? Slicing down from behind, but luckily for our hero, into thin air, as somehow, in the nick of time, Vegito just barely manages to escape via instant transmission, immediately reappearing once again some distance away, as Madara remains ready to attack at any moment. The brief skirmish doesn't leave Vegito with a positive taste in his mouth though, as he angrily then contemplates, "This is just as pointless as when I fought Guts. I'm totally outclassed when it comes to fighting blade to blade. Maybe if I'd eaten Trunks when I had the chance, this would have been more even. But right now, I need a way to make things fair." Straight away following these thoughts up with slamming his sword back into the planet's surface, leaving himself now unarmed as he quickly then swings his left arm to the side, not uttering a word, but his right arm bent out in front, as if in a new fighting stance. Now what? Which temporarily leaves the still moving forward Madara to briefly wonder what the God Killer was even thinking, as he says, "Now he wants to fight me bare-handed? This fool must have forgotten already just how deadly this blade of mine is. I guess better your fingers than mine, friend." But as Madara reaches closer, Vegito vanishes quickly once again, this time leaving his blade behind. Confusing Madara as he wonders, leaving his weapon unattended. Does he have any idea what that thing is worth? Perhaps the coward finally realized just how pointless battling me really was. Not a chance, clown face! What? As out of nowhere, Vegito reappears, but this time right behind the second, as his arms bulge and become raucous in veins as they immediately grab onto and clench hard on the neck and body of Madara, trapping him and immobilizing use of both of his arms too. But though we cannot see Madara's true expression, through his voice we can tell he's almost unbothered as he inquires, "Nice move, mortal. But what do you intend to do with your hands tied like this? You should know, it's only a matter of time before I break free of this pathetic grip and slice you in half." But Vegito in response just opens his eyes wide as one of his mysterious final form techniques then activates. Is that? As in a shock twist, instead of summoning the power of the angels or gods that he had just devoured, he instead summons a one-to-one copy of himself that leaves the second lost for words. As with a sinister look of confidence, as if his plan was now in full effect, Vegito raises his hand behind him, pointed directly towards the Blade of Destruction, while saying, "Oh, don't worry. Someone's getting sliced in half, alright. But don't count on it being me!" As suddenly at the end of Vegito's sentence, the Blade of Destruction begins to tremble and vibrate with the very planet, before exploding outwards out of the ground that sheathed it, and rapidly moving at speed straight towards the outstretched hand of Vegito, as if a magnet attracted to a polar center. And just like that, with even more obedience than ever with guts, the Blade of Destruction returns to its new owner's hand, the God Killer. And with the blade now with the second Vegito, the apparition screams, "Now! Let us see how you come back from being sliced up, Madara! Somehow, I don't think you'll be able to do the same things I could." Wait! Leaving the previously calm and collected member of the Five Strongest, now for the first time showing a bona fide hint of fear, even through his unmoving mask. As without a shred of mercy, Ultra Vegito's clone follows through without any hesitation, and with a dastardly smirk on his mug, he lets out, "Looks like you weren't much more of a challenge than Guts, after all. Consider the master now surpassed." As the son Madara seemingly then remains motionless as his own katana falls from his very hand. And as we finally see the damage from Vegito's attack, the aftermath is just as the God Killer expected, as the second of the Five Strongest, now most likely already on the cusp of death, separates in half slowly as his entire body splits in two. All the while the smirking Vegito would just laugh looking at him. "What's wrong, kiddo? Can't you reattach and regenerate too? So much for looking down on us mortals, you divine weakling!" Before then beginning to loosen his grip as his arms extend forward, and he continues, "I better hurry up and take this fool's energy now, before he completely dies. Oh, I can't wait. power and energy that will be even better than guts? Count me in. Wait, what? But suddenly, in classic Dragon Ball fashion, things do not go just as the God Killer planned, as suddenly a look of pure shock and bewilderment comes over Vegito. But why? What is this? As suddenly in a shocking sight, as if some form of clone, the once split clean in half body of Madara immediately breaks into a fury of black, screaming ravens that burst out and fly all over the surrounding area in panic, leaving the completely astounded God Killer just muttering, "What the hell? What did he just do? His energy, it's gone! He was here. I felt him. This was definitely the real him! What kind of dumb magic trick is this? Where are you?" Eventually causing Vegeta to quickly turn around in annoyance, ready to annihilate his victim once more until... Just as he turns around, levitating in the air, uncomfortably close and face to face with Vegito, staring him in the eyes, is now a whole Madara, who whispers, "Yes, Vegito, just like that. Look deeply into my eyes. Eyes of Izuna!" And suddenly, within the mask of Madara, his widened eyes completely change, as his right eye takes on a strange but haunting pattern, leaving the God Killer, for some strange reason now, completely paralyzed, and stands still as if having just seen the fright of his life. But eventually, once Vegito comes back to his senses, he no longer seems to be in the same place. Now surrounded in what seems like complete darkness, Vegito's eyes immediately begin to dart around to figure out where he is or what has happened to him, as he thinks, "What the hell is going on here? One minute that clown was right in front of me, and the next I'm here. Did he kill me or something? Or worse, erase me? It feels like he pulled a Babidi and moved me to an entirely different dimension." And with nothing else to do, he begins walking slowly and cautiously through the void of pitch black darkness until... "Hey look guys, it's him! He's back!" A voice suddenly calls from the distance, one that seems friendly, leading to Vegito to slowly turn around and... What the... This can't be real! But what the God Killer sees puts him in even more of a shock and awe state than previously, as his body freezes in the instant, unable to contemplate what is stood before him. "Hey, come over!" As unbelievably in the most unexpected sight, the Z Fighters of Earth are seen once again, fully healthy, smiling with open arms to Vegito, Krillin, Piccolo, Yamcha, Tien, Gohan, and even Chi-Chi and Bulma. "Oh, you guys!" But instantly as Vegito's eyes dart around noticing everyone, tears of sadness, happiness, and confusion can't help but uncontrollably stream down the cheeks of the God Killer, as he whispers, "How is this all possible? You're all back. You're all alive. Are these all members of the Time Patrol too or something?" Remembering, of course, how he just recently saw Goten and Trunks. "Hey!" But as Vegito cries, a familiar hand eventually grabs onto him from the side. Strange, because Gohan was just in front of him. But Gohan with a smile would then say, as if able to hear even Vegito's whispers, "Haha, no Dad, Time Patrol? What even is that? It's us, Dad, just the way you left us. We're all together again. Come here." And just like that, Vegito for the first time in over 10 years would hug his firstborn son, Gohan, once again. The two emotionally embracing each other, while Vegito remains in a state of disbelief, just muttering, "Gohan, it is you! It really is!" "Hey, don't forget about us, Dad." But as the two hug it out, in a distance, two very familiar young kids call out to the God Killer too. "Dad, you're back!" As of course, they are then revealed to be Goten and Trunks, just as they were before they were erased, smiling and full of excitement at seeing their would-be dad again after all this time. Oh! But as Vegito looks on, he once again cannot believe what he is seeing, as he thinks, "Goten, Trunks, they're back, and they look the same!" "Haha, of course we do, Dad. We were brought back from the moment we died." This time with the duo of kids actually somehow reading Vegito's thoughts. And in the end, as Gohan lets go with a smile, the two younger Saiyans would run and grab onto their father with pure giddiness, as Vegito just remains gobsmacked. But soon, with the sight of his actual youngest son in front of his eyes, the discrepancies in age and any logic in his mind are tossed out of the window, as with a smile, he speaks to his son. "Goten, when will you ever grow up a little, huh? I think I may need to take you two to see a doctor." "That doctor can wait, Goku. What about us?" As yet again, mysterious voices are heard that are revealed to be Chi-Chi and Bulma, looking as youthful as ever. "Oh, you two! You're back as well!" Leaving Vegito now in a different state of stun, as another type of love begins to overflow within him. "You haven't aged a day! I've missed you!" Causing the once hardened heart Vegito to scream out in happiness towards his wives. "What are you doing all the way over there? Come here!" Instantly then shifting to run towards his partners without any more caution whatsoever. But that happiness could only last so long for the tragic life of Ultra Vegito. What are you doing here?" As suddenly and shockingly, behind the two women, three gods of destruction that should also be dead appear menacingly. "No! Belmont! Please! Rumshi!" And when zoomed in, along with the tearfully shocked Vegito, so too do the gods of destruction he named also appear. Each silent, but with a devious-looking smirk in place. Hakai! Until the unthinkable does happen, and the three gods shout out in tandem behind Vegito's two wives, the words meant to erase them forever. No! Stop! But as Vegito screams out at his worst nightmare traumatizing him once more, it's too late yet again, as both Chi-Chi and Bulma erase, with the latter just saying, "Vegito, why didn't you save me?" "Stand back, Dad, I got this!" But before Vegito can react in any more terror or sorrow, Gohan suddenly appears in front, confident just as he did 10 years ago, placing his arm out in front of Vegito as if protecting him, while the two younger Saiyans in the back yell, "No way, Gohan! We're joining in the fun too!" Just like that, without Vegito being able to say a word more, all three of his sons fly straight towards the three gods to somehow avenge their mother in place of Vegito. But their flight is interrupted when two more gods appear, Iwan and Mule. And with their hands outreached, they too Hakai! And just like their mothers before them, all three are then erased on the spot too. Hakai! 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 And one by one, the same story repeats itself as each of the Z fighters, Piccolo by Jin, Krillin by Liquor, Yamcha by Kitella, and Tien by Sidra, are all erased before the eyes of the stood still in shell shock Vegito. You! I won't let you get away with this! As finally, in a true unleashing of all of Vegito's pent-up rage, anger and inner thoughts exploding out, his face almost becomes beastly in the process, and his entire body shoots forth unimaginable power, cloaked in thicker than normal black lightning, while every blood vessel within his body expands. And as Vegito reaches his very limit in power release, even losing himself to it, as his pupils disappear, his body becomes a ridiculously bright shining light that even shocks the gods themselves as they all become enveloped in it, and most likely die from just the intensity of its radiance itself. And in that flash of light, everything is lost, including Vegito. But once we see Vegito again, his eyes remain gone, and from his mouth, drool drips down, as the God Killer seemingly remains in some sort of vegetative state. And when the scene finally shows everything, Vegito is revealed to be back where he was at the start when he first fought Madara, but just frozen in time, not even moving in the slightest. And behind the vegetative state God Killer, laughing with amusement, behind him is of course Madara, sat down nonchalantly on a rock behind as he comments as if speaking to someone else. "I told you fools, he's been standing like that for over an hour now. This is the power of the eyes of Azuna. He'll be locked in an infinite nightmare now, with no escape for the rest of his days. In this state, regardless of that hideous form, he is as weak as any mortal out there. Do as you please with him, but just know, the Grand Priest wanted him back alive." And to all our surprise, standing there before Vegito, right in front of him, are the two remaining gods of destruction, Iwan and Mule, with Mule from within his giant armored machine, saying with a giggle, "Alive," he said. What do you say, Iwan? Does that really sound like a good idea after all this dirt has done? All the fellow gods he's killed? No. I think it's high time to Hakai! So our story continues with the two gods of destruction who are left remaining in the multiverse, Iwan, god of destruction for Universe 1, and Mule, god of destruction for Universe 3. with both remaining in an eerie silence as they stare at the God Killer who had slain so many of their fellow divine brethren. But still standing there, drooling, unresponsive, and in a vegetative state after being trapped in an infinite nightmare, is Vegito. Oh, you are so much more of a delight to look at when you can't talk, aren't you, my dear Vegito? As Madara also watches on with a sense of pleasure in his voice after leaving the so-called God Killer more vulnerable and defenseless than a mere toddler. But as Vegito remains stood still, soon robotic sounds can be heard from the middle of Mule's robotic core, until from within, a hushed voice is heard saying, "Enough of this. It's time I dealt with this dirt myself." And out of the metallic exoskeleton, finally, the miniature Mule appears, draped in his God of Destruction garb. But as we zoom in on his face, his true expression and feelings are revealed, as with an angered, betrothed look, he lets out, "Pathetic. The blood of gods and angels are still all over your clothes. The stench of your actions has not left you even to this day, and the debt of your sins will never be repaid, God Killer. But you can bet I'll collect as much of it as I can." "You sorry piece of trash!" As Mule then finally begins stepping out, staring Vegito down and yelling profanities, before, with gritted teeth, he would then begin thinking back and letting out, "You know, even years ago at the Tournament of Power, when I first met you as your separate selves, I always knew you were not to be trusted. Mere mortals, calling themselves Super Saiyan gods? Don't make me laugh, you disgusting subspecies. Accessing some sort of counterfeit divine energy and suddenly placing you in the same realm as us deities? And what's worse, all this while that silly cat Beerus would just gawk and scream like a cheerleader. And now look where that got him. Gone like the rest of them. Gone like my fellow gods!" Instantly, in a wrath of fury, then slamming his fist across the face of the defenseless Vegito, sending his head snapping back without a sound from the God Killer to even respond. Sending Vegito's near lifeless body to slam back onto the ground, far off and back first, as his blade of destruction is let go and falls to the ground, stabbing into it. And still, even with blood now seeping from his chin where Mule struck, he just remains lost, deep within the nightmare. "You damn fool! I'll make you pay for every god you've slain!" As not satisfied with striking the mentally disabled Vegito, Mule rushes in to continue the violence. "Wipe that stupid look off your face, demon!" As brutally, Mule then lands with a thunderous stomp right on Vegito's face, compressing it momentarily inwards as he's stepping on a balloon. And viciously, in a rampage of unprovoked assault, Mule would then begin stamping non-stop on the face of the motionless Vegito. But as his face begins to get barraged by the foot of the god, nothing changes on the expression of the God Killer, except for the flurry of blood that gushes out of his face that has also become bruised all over. He won! But after finally growing fatigued from his onslaught on Vegito's face, the God of Destruction quickly turns around to his fellow member and yells, "Listen, I know you don't talk much, but don't you want a piece of this too? All of the destroyers he killed, the stress he caused us, the pain. This is our revenge, my friend. Seize it with both hands." But in response, Iwan just remains calm and silent as expected, levitating off the ground with his hands behind his back before he finally lets out, "Though what you say has some truth, Mule. You may be right. As much as I would enjoy giving that monster over there a true beating, I say we handicap him further first, just in case he wakes up. Allow me to Hakai his arms and legs while he's still like this." The response leading to Mule instantly laughing maniacally as he continues with his foot just above Vegito's face. "What a fine idea, Iwan! To think, you barely speak, but when you do, it is to say the most sadistic ideas. I'll take you up on that offer, but let us do it together. And then, even if he does wake up from this thing, I'd love to see him just try and fight us with just his head." Hold it right there, children. Huh? But just as Mule and Iwan become increasingly excited at the idea of dismembering the downed Vegito, a familiar but authoritative voice calls from the shadows. And it is revealed to be, of course, Madara, second of the 5 strongest and defeater of ULTRA Vegito. With his hand eccentrically placed on his mask, he would then let out, "Don't even bother with that stupid idea. This one is no ordinary Saiyan from what I've gathered. His body has regeneration ability somehow. Something to do with a power he refers to as Boo? Who knows whatever that is. But the only way to hurt this one is to erase him completely. However, like I said, the priest himself said he wants him back alive. And if you want to disobey him and deal with the aftermath, then so be it. But I will not be around to protect you fools." Damn it! Causing the smaller God of Destruction Mule to immediately cuss out in frustration, as he begrudgingly grumbles, "You've got to be kidding me! Just what kind of ungodly changes has this freak undergone, huh? Where would he even get access to such things? All from within Universe 7? Huh. But I guess the real question here is, what does the Daishinken want with him? Could it be the time rings? Or maybe Whis' staff? Either way, how annoying we can't enjoy our revenge fully, God Killer. Iwan, you better get a whacking now while you still can." And immediately, as if never having to be told twice, Iwan appears with his foot raised and ready to stamp on Vegito too, yelling back, "So be it then. I'll enjoy this as much as I can." As instantly as the gods begin simultaneously attacking, Madara just watches on bemused, commenting, "What petty, weak beings." And all the while, yet again, Vegito would just remain unmoving and unable to do a thing as more and more blood and bruises plague him under the brutal beating. But in a curious sight, as we zoom in on his left eye, a sudden stream of tears begins to fall. Could it be in reaction to the physical pain, or perhaps a more emotional and mental one from what is happening within his mind? Let me go! But as we finally peek back into the infinite nightmare the God Killer is trapped in, like a martyr, we see Vegito pinned by chains to a standing tall, T-shaped structure. And below seem to be the once thought erased Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Chi-Chi and Bulma, his family members and the closest people within his life. Hakai! But from a distance, the sinister words of the destroyers unfortunately is heard, and of course, first Trunks begins to erase again. Dad! Before so too is the young Goten. Dad! But still standing now with an angry and panicked voice, Gohan, the oldest son of Vegito, watching on, would scold, "What are you doing? Aren't you going to do anything to stop them, Dad? Do something! Save us! Hakai!" But before any more can be said, the same fate is awaited for the young Saiyan once again. For the third time, now being erased right before the eyes of Vegito. No! Stop it! And when we do see the effects of such trauma on the God Killer, its impact is clear. As with rivers of warm tears flooding down his cheeks and drool shooting out of his mouth as he yells, the God Killer is seen at his lowest and as a shell of his former self, after an unknown quantity of pure, traumatic torture. Goku! Vegeta! But things do not end there, as suddenly, from the particles left behind of his sons, his two wives, Chi-Chi and Bulma, then run in disarray towards their husband. Save us! And instantly, as if holding onto for dear life, literally, the two grab onto the feet of their spouse, not knowing there was nothing Vegito could even do to hug them back. But regardless, with tears flooding down her own eyes, Chi-Chi with a look of sadness and fear would say, "Goku, don't let me die, please." While Bulma, equally sad and tearing up, would add, "Vegeta, don't you love me?" Hakai! But just as tragically as before, both women are instantly then disposed of by the seemingly hidden god surrounding them, and in the most permanent of ways. Chi-Chi! Bulma! Leaving the severely heartbroken Saiyan to just scream out their names one more time, unable to distinguish now reality from illusion anymore. I will kill you! Leaving the God Killer to do the only thing he can as he explodes in power, yelling as hard as he can as if anybody would be able to hear him, as electricity then begins to surround his entire body, yet none of this has even the slightest effect of freeing him from his T-shaped cage. Pathetic. But as Vegito screams and roars, finally, the 12 gods of destruction appear before him, all smiling and snickering, just watching on as if the God Killer was a mere exhibit at the zoo. But suddenly, from all the laughter, a cry is heard. The cry of a baby Pan, as the merciless apparition of Belmod lifts the child by the hair and says, "Seems I have something of yours, Vegito. How do I turn this thing off, eh?" Burn! You let go of her now! Immediately causing the grandfather, of course, to become furious in an unsurmountable stage of rage as he speaks through gritted teeth. But back in reality, while all this mental trauma goes on, an equal amount of physical damage is laid out too, as the two destroyers Mule and Iwan continue to stamp on Vegito's face until barely a breath can be heard. But back in the dream, Belmont's eye begins to move slowly towards the still crying Pan until... Hakai! With one more final word said, the unthinkable is done to the defenseless child. As in a total throwback to what originally happened on Earth, the young baby Pan is erased prematurely once again, and this time right in front of her grandfather. And instantly, with this sight now in mind, freshly scorched into his eyes, something snaps finally within the now extremely brittle mental state of Vegito. And with his eyes suddenly closing as veins begin to flex on his face, the God Killer would just let out, "My head! Why is my head hurting? Why are you doing this?" Almost as if finally, Vegito was beginning to sense what was happening in the real world now too. And with an ungodly roar that could only be described as coming from a true demon, Vegito screams to the sky, powering up, instantly breaking everything that bound him. But most notably, atop his head, where he was complaining about from being in pain, two vicious and uncharacteristic horns suddenly burst forth from the sides of his temple. And with the horns now at full length, and seemingly not even noticed by Vegito, once his eyes and expression came down back to normal, he begins saying,
"Enough of this. Everything will be paid for now."
Immediately leading to Vegito once again screaming with a truly beastly roar, as the God Killer raises his head straight up and yells to the heavens as if demanding his escape. But soon enough, his entire body, as a result of his power-up, begins to completely become enveloped in a ball of shining energy that spits dark lightning all over until... Back on the outside, the barrage of stamps on Vegito seemingly finally begin to come to an end. As eventually, as the two gods raise their feet for one last time, all that can be heard is the breaths of their exhausted states. That is until... Wait a second. His energy, it's... Out of nowhere, Mule's face is totally lost in a flash of light that can only mean one thing. Some way, somehow, Vegito's explosion of energy from within his mind reaches outwards and causes an insane explosion that covers the landscape, darkening the sky as black thunder bursts forward everywhere. And when we look at the deities that watch on, luckily for them, both Iwan and Mule manage to survive, though thoroughly trying their best to cover and protect themselves as the wind and pressure from Vegito's power even blows off some of their clothing. While as expected, the unfazed, physically Madara seems to watch on with more curiosity than fear. And once the explosion of energy comes to an end, nothing can actually be seen or detected from within the thick clouds of smoke that remain until something shoots out with terrifying speed straight out of the dust clouds, so fast there would have never been any way to deduce just who or what it was. That is until finally a dark creature lands on the ground with a crash, not letting out any words but just beastly grumbles as if the stranger was less human and more animal. Could this really be who we think it is? And when the figure is finally revealed, all we can see is a pitch black beast. Horns visible and hair similar to Vegito, but any sense of the humanity seems to be well and truly gone. And up in the air, lifted in his left arm, is none other than the Blade of Destruction, indicating even in this primal state, this dark beast is still ready to kill. As the grumbling, mysterious beast begins letting out steaming smoke which bellows out of his gritted mouth, and just one word then can be finally heard. But though that word gave us our biggest clue towards this beast somehow being Vegito, once said, the black beast resorts back to grumbles, staring into the palm of his now clawed hand, marveling at his newfound power, or at least that would be how it seemed. Is that? But now on the ground and more fearful than ever, Mule and Iwan would take notice from a distance. But as we zoom in on Mule, the true state of their fears come to light, as with a trembling voice, Mule would then let out, "What? That can't be the God Killer? Not in a million years! Why does he look like that now? Why does he look like... Elusive!" As suddenly, a wave of paralyzing shock and terror explodes through the body of Mule, as sweat drips at speed all across his face at just the mere resemblance to the legendary being that seemingly all of the gods fear. Iwan! This has gotten way too dangerous! We're getting out of here now! And in a quick shock response, Mule would then grab onto the wrist of the stunned into silence Iwan by force and attempt a getaway. But this apparently is not unnoticed by the dark beast, who immediately then squints his eyes in the direction of the gods, before then turning around abruptly to face them, his eyes pinpointed at them in the distance, before... the seemingly now battle-conscious being then lifts his hand quickly into the sky, with his palm facing the duo of destroyers, with only one outcome left on its mind. And immediately, with two clear victims in mind, the Dark Beast fires an even darker ball of ferocious energy straight towards the duo of gods. What's that? And though the ball deceptively looks small at first, by the time it reaches near enough the destroyers, the true size is apparent, almost able to dwarf their bodies, and more than likely enough to erase them instantly. Can't you two fools even get running away, right? But fortunately for Mule and Iwan, out of nowhere to their rescue, the second arrives, sword in hand and ready to seemingly bear the brunt of the blast for them. But as the dark blast reaches within inches, Madara moves his blade back and yells with intensity as if about to slice through the energy until... Your god-killing days will not be continuing while I'm around, Vegito! As immediately, with full confidence, the second slams his legendary blade down onto the blast as if putting down an animal, with thunderous crackling of black lightning roaring all over as he strikes and attempts to push the energy ball back. Huh? But his strike doesn't seem to go exactly as he had first planned, as quickly Madara notices and comments, "Huh? What's this? It's not going back! Impossible! I'm actually trying here! Is my blade dulled?" But as Madara wonders, even more of the unthinkable happens as when we zoom in on the blade of Madara, soon the smallest of hairline fractures and cracks begin to show suddenly. And just like that, as if inevitable, the blade of the second snaps under pressure, cleanly in half as the ball of energy from the Dark Beast just continues to rush forward. Impossible! Eventually shooting past the shocked member of the Five towards its target, while the stunned Madara can only stare forward and mutter, What just happened? He broke the Izanagi! But even the third could do that! But back with the destroyers, who are about to be annihilated themselves, Mule yells out, "No you don't!" And just like that, the two escape at the last second to fight another day. And Madara, noticing from a distance their departure, just thinks to himself, at least I was able to stall enough for those two to actually get out of my way. Before looking back down to the useless broken stub that is now his once legendary weapon, and lets out, "But this is just astonishing. I haven't seen a nick or scratch on this thing in millennia. And here it is now, a useless piece of trash." Before then nonchalantly just dropping the damaged weapon onto the ground, as if having accepted the situation. Before continuing, though the more surprising thing here is that this beast even managed to break out of the eyes of Azuna. That should not be possible for any gods in this realm, let alone a damn mortal. This hasn't happened since him. As right behind Madara now appears a mysterious demon-like figure whose strange eyes that we seem to have seen mentioned a number of times so far. Before the second continues, but he broke through the illusion of sheer mental power alone. The years of horrible conditions in the demon realm made any nightmare I created totally powerless. Surely, this mortal couldn't have done the same? What even triggered this transformation? Did I go too far? But regardless, without too much actual fear or hesitation, Madara then descends immediately towards the ground, standing toe-to-toe with the horned beast, before then grabbing onto his mask once again and inquiring, "So, you seem to be a little stronger than before, aren't you, my dear Vegito? I dare say with those horns, you finally look more like your namesake, God Killer. Is this your true form?" But in response, of course, the near-mute Dark Warrior would just continue to let out ashy smoke from his mouth as he stares down Madara with internalized disdain. Madara now, without his sword though, would just get into a strange fighting stance of his own and respond back, "Huh? Not the talkative type anymore, eh? You seem to have so much more to say than for that little bad dream I put you through, didn't you, Vegito? Well, no matter. In that case, we'll save the small talk and get this over with instead. A beast like you must be put down anyway! As instantly, confirming the confidence of the second, Madara rushes in excitedly like a wild animal straight for the still sword-wielding creature in front. But just as he throws out his first punch, as if the Black Beast's Ultra Instinct was still intact, it instantly dodges straight out of the way. Until with a devilish laugh that does in fact remind us of Vegito, instantly, mid-attack, the wrist of Madara is grabbed. Huh? Let go, you! What? But before the sentence could even begin to be finished, as if ripping off a rose off its stem, the grinning dark creature would shockingly rip Madara's arm in half within nanoseconds. You vile mortal! Leaving the delirious with shock Madara to scream out in pain, but also pure disbelief in what the transformed God Killer had even just done to him, as blood pours and leaks instantly from his wound. And for the first time with a serious undertone of anger, grabbing onto his now pumping with pain shoulder, Madara would yell, "You truly are full of surprises! How very bizarre. Your speed has jumped at least tenfold to do something like that, not to mention your strength to make a god bleed like this. Seems that dark energy surrounding you now is a little bit more than just aesthetic." But with an increasingly large grin on the pitch-black warrior's face, he would begin giggling as he lifts the ripped forearm of the second before him like a prize trophy. Before crushing it instantly like a mere scrunched up piece of paper, and more notably, as soon as that was done, so too is the forearm instantly erased somehow, without even the mention of the word Hakai, as if the Dark Beast had somehow now reached an all-new level of destruction power mastery while in this state. Think I'm supposed to care about that arm, mortal? You can do with it as you like. As in response, in a surprising turn of events, the second immediately rips off what's left of his arm, straight down to the shoulder, before dropping it with a thud right beside him. But though the bravado before made him seem unbothered, as the atmosphere around the second changes, the true anger within him becomes apparent, as he lets out, "Well done for maiming me, God Killer. For once you actually make guts seem reasonable for falling to the likes of you. But I'm afraid, if you think losing one arm would be enough to weaken me, you're in for a rude awakening." As suddenly, with a rising yell, Madara begins powering up his own energy, with at first no aura appearing except for a rumble on the very surface of the planet, and the air pressure and atmosphere changing dramatically until... With a ferocious roar that resembles the one given off by the beast before him, his entire body becomes enveloped with a tremendously powerful aura that soon spirals into a cylinder that reaches the heavens themselves. And through it, Madara slowly rises from the bottom towards the top, all before the eyes of the dark beast below. But though almost point-blank faced with the humongous power-up, not so much as a flinch can be seen by the demon-like creature, as the wind blows his flowing white hair in all directions. but almost in a spectacle for the ages, the plume of vast energy soon begins to contort and change shape, until suddenly a pair of eyes become visible through what can only be described as a cloak of divine heat, continuing to change shape and form until... Suddenly, standing there complete, now making the dark beast appear as an ant before him, is a giant apparition, dressed in traditional samurai wear and with a sword of his own, as flares of energy begin to ripple off the titan. But as we zoom in on the giant apparition, hidden within its intimidating face is a crystal pentagon, with a familiar, blurred silhouette within. And soon, once peered in even closer, it is of course revealed to be Madara, having unleashed his energy to create this monster that encapsulates him. With his severed arm now giving off strange particles, Madara would then begin saying quaintly, "Ha ha 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 ha. You know, I've had that arm for millennia. But I suppose all good things must come to an end. A new beginning must eventually start." As suddenly, straight from the playbook of Piccolo, from within Madara's shoulder, an entirely new arm, formed from the same energy that seems to be making up the apparition, is formed in perfect muscular definition. And with his head now bowing in sinister fashion, pleased with himself, Madara would finally say, much better. I believe now, Vegito, you can finally see the difference between myself and Guts. Behold, the power of Madara, second of the 5 strongest in the multiverse! But as Madara makes this declaration of strength, suddenly, the demonic beast just begins to burst out into a cold laughter, as more smoke bellows out, his sharp inhuman teeth begin to bear out. And with the grin growing even larger by the second, the beast would inexplicably begin lifting up the blade of destruction, but not in a fashion that could be used for attacking. At least, not attacking Madara. As suddenly, in a completely unexpected shift, the dark being swipes the blade at himself. Laughing as the blade rushes in at him, now aimed at his face of all targets. The same blade that made cold cuts of Guts himself, now shooting towards the most vulnerable spot on the God Killer. What? What are you doing, fool? The turn of events even shocking Madara as he watches on, trying his hardest to figure out what the motive behind this is until... In incredible fashion, on impact of the dark beast's face, the near unbreakable blade of destruction that cut through even Kachin shatters into multiple pieces as if made of glass. But the shocking feats do not end there. Finally! As out of the shattered remains of the blade, suddenly, a dark mass of energy that can only resemble a mini devil shoots out with a thunderous scream. Huh? No! And though who or what it is remains a mystery to us viewers, to Madara, a sudden wave of fear rushes through his entire body as he mutters, He let out the demon emperor within the sword! To the realm of mortals? You fool!
Come here.
What? But before Madara's fear and panic could reach its peak, just as the demon emperor has his first taste of freedom, instantly, it is grabbed by the throat and stopped straight in place as a completely stunned Emperor just stares into the eyes of its attacker with confusion until... in almost immediate fashion, the entire life force and being of the demon is absorbed straight into the left arm of the darkened God Killer, presumably through usage of the energy absorption device that should still be in his palm. What? And from within the shell of his giant apparition, even the Titan reacts in unison with Madara, moving back in fear and absolute confusion over what had just happened. And when we zoom in on Madara, with his hand raised to his face as if defending himself from the sight he had just witnessed, he mumbles, How did he get rid of a demon emperor so quickly? He just touched it and it vanished. Has his destruction power really risen to the level of affecting even demons? But as Madara wonders what comes next, suddenly the dark beast's body begins to change, lowering in mass while stretching out. The very skin of the creature begins to evaporate off in a smoky mist. All the while, an overjoyed smile can be seen all over its face. And as its entire body is soon lost in the dark smoke, as it eventually dissipates, the eye of a very iconic figure can then be seen. But along with that, an arm and chest now appearing, covered in a familiar fur, and below, a strange tail resembling a Saiyan's, but more demonic in nature. As unbelievably finally revealing himself is ULTRA Vegito, but now looking markedly different in an entirely new form, covered in sharp purple lightning, purple fur resembling a Super Saiyan 4 or 5, while his hair, now longer and sharper, bears still the purple of Ultra Ego and the white of Ultra Instinct. And adding to it all, of course, are the two protruding horns that can only tell us of Vegito's now demonic descent. And with one final grin, all is then confirmed as he lets out, "Sorry for swallowing up that demon emperor you were so fond of. How about instead you say hello to a true devil now, Madara?" As finally, the multiverse witnesses the ungodly true power of the God Killer. So our story continues with Vegito in his new form, standing with his mysterious black horns blaring out of his forehead and the V mark on his chest glowing a violent purple, as black signature lightning coats his entire figure, while in front of him, a giant titan, created of course by Madara, the second of the 5 strongest, stands still, intimidatingly. Within the giant apparition though, Madara remains as cocky looking as ever, not bothered in the slightest, it seems, by Vegito's new appearance, as he grabs onto his mask eccentrically and lets out, Well, would you look at that? You changed yet again. And this time, not just your hair color changed. How curious. Though, I have to say you look far less intimidating than earlier, even with those embarrassingly small horns on your head. I don't believe that is supposed to be part of a Saiyan's anatomy, if I know my primates well. More like, in fact, what you see on a demon. Just all the more reason why you should no longer exist anymore, Vegito. And finally, in typical fashion, Vegito begins laughing in response, before saying back, "So, just because I grew some horns, I'm a demon that doesn't deserve to exist, huh? But you gods just are freely able to go around annihilating entire planets as and when you choose, looking down on anything that is weaker than you. Yet, you are the ones that should remain? Is that what you're saying?" You have to just love the truly stupid logic you elderly gods stick to. Silence, you damn child! But suddenly, from what was once a calm and concerted demeanor, pure fury and anger can be heard in the voice as he yells, pointing down at Vegito, "I've had enough of your insolence, you puny scum, and enough of your damn sob story. Boo-hoo! A few weak gods from this realm killed your friends and family, and now you have a vendetta against us all? Give me a break. We gods are what hold these universes together, and even the realms above, too. You wouldn't even exist without beings like us. This whole place would be overrun with the demon realm. You're lucky you absorbed that weak one, because if it was one of the true emperors that were released, the Grand Priest or Zeno themselves would no longer be able to watch you like some circus act." For soon, Madara's mannerism turns back to sinister as he continues, "In fact, this all only began because you killed a god. Because you killed Beerus. Because of that one action, all of those innocent little earthlings had to die. Your sons, your wives, your friends, all gone forever. And it seems in actuality, it was all because of you. Not anybody else. It was because of you, Vegito." But in response, a cold and hardened stare manifests on Vegito's face, as he no longer can listen to any more, as he just simply spits out, "Watch your tongue." But this blunt response only serves to make Madara laugh once more, as he grabs his mask again and continues, "Watch my tongue? Or what, mortal? Have you forgotten already exactly who I am? You seem to have completely lost your marbles after what I just said. What's wrong? Did I say something that stung? Earthling killer?" But as soon as Madara says that final line, with complete silence, Vegito just then raises his black lightning covered palm into the sky before then closing his palm as if now sealing someone's fate. But curiously, nothing seems to happen. What was that supposed to be? You truly are a joke. If I'm such a joke, then start laughing. As suddenly, out of nowhere from the heavens themselves, or maybe even the demon realm, a massive strike of black thunder shoots down and hits directly on the giant titan containing Madara, shocking the apparition instantly as its entire insides and skeletal structure become visible for an instant. Instantly leading to the giant being crashing down onto one knee and onto its right fist. Immediately tilting Madara, who experiences the massive G-force of the fall too, as he then lets out angrily, "What the hell? Did this mortal just command down lightning from this god-forsaken planet? Who the hell does he think he is? Some kind of thunder god? Where did he go?" But suddenly mid-sentence, as Madara turns with the Titan to see where Vegito is, he quickly notices the God Killer is nowhere to be seen anymore. Angering the impatient second as he yells out, "Damn it! That vile scrounger managed to distract me with that little magic trick. But now where the devil has he gone?" "The devil's right here, Madara." But suddenly, the voice of the God Killer is heard once more. Leading to Madara quickly turning around. Only for the smiling Vegito to now appear right behind him. And within the giant Titan too, as Vegito nonchalantly lets out, "So this is what it's like inside this giant samurai." Thought it looked weird at first, but it's kind of cozy. "What? What are you doing in here?" Immediately leaving the panicked Madara to react in fear. Now looking head-on at the newly transformed Vegito as he folds his arms without a care in the world, making Madara continue, "If you don't get out of my sight, right?" "Shut up!" Before suddenly, with the fastest and most brutal of kicks, Vegito slams his foot 300 Spartan style right into the chest of Madara. So hard, it almost seems like his foot penetrated right through into the deity's body. Sending Madara shooting out straight from the great samurai and right down to the ground as if falling from a skyscraper. And once we zoom in, the legendary second is seen as helpless as any of the mortals he used to look down on, as the force of Vegito's kick continues sending him down, acting like its own force of gravity. Until, with a violent crash, Madara smashes straight into a group of sharp rocks and boulders on the ground below, and unable to do a thing about it. Meanwhile though, now all alone, now within the Titan Madara created, in the middle of the center crystal, Vegito remains. And looking around at his surroundings, he soon comments with a curious smirk, "Interesting. This seems to be a little different to the giant I can create via Ultra Instinct. Let's see how this thing works, huh?" But back on the ground, where Madara remains buried in a smoking pile of rubble on the floor, a slight rumble can be heard until, with a crash, something bursts forth. Something or someone I'm sure we all know, as the hand of the second is then seen bursting out with a murmur until finally, the second of the 5 strongest emerges in full, damaged but still able to move and full of anger. "You!" And with his hair in disarray and his mask now cracked for the first time in millennia, he would continue, "How dare you use my tools as your own? How dare you use the possessions of the deities, you damn mortal! A weakling like you has no place touching these things, and nor will you possess even an inkling of the power and grace needed to use them either. Stop fooling yourself and get out!" Oh, really? But in response, Ultra Vegito, of course, just breaks out in laughter, his grin wide as he suddenly raises his arm out again, as if to strike Madara with thunder again, before saying, "So I can't handle this level of power, you say, huh? Not enough grace? I guess that's because of these horns too, right? Well, let's just put that to the test then, shall we?" As instantly, on command of Vegito, with even more speed and precision than before, the giant apparition pulls back its giant sword and angles its trajectory straight for Madara. What? No! Leaving the second momentarily stunned in place as he just observes his own most powerful weapon turn on him inexplicably due to the actions of a mortal. And with a thunderous roar and explosion of force, the giant then slams instantly the energy-powered blade straight down onto the second without mercy. All the while, ULTRA Vegito watches from within. And amazingly, the force and power of such a divine tool, when we zoom out into space, slices the entire planet in half in the aftermath also, causing a portion to instantly then separate and be lost to the void of space as it slowly moves away. Oops! And with such monstrous destruction done, a cheeky smile comes across Vegito's face as he covers his mouth to stop himself from laughing and then says, "Looks like I went a little too far. Who knew I had such grace? Hey, Madara? No worries though. I don't seem to detect any other life forms on this desolate planet anyway. I guess that old codger Arak wanted to fight me all alone. Respectable for a god, I guess. But what about this one? Is he dead already or what? Not a chance, God Killer!" But of course, from behind Vegito, the very same voice of the god he was talking about shouts out from behind. And practically unbothered though, Vegito would then just turn around slowly, with a smile inquiring, "Oh, there you are, Mr. Second. Thought I lost you there for a moment. How are you doing? You look a little different." Get out! As shockingly, Madara does indeed appear behind Vegito, but not as we remember him, as now his entire fit appears totally damaged in all aspects, with his left leg and right arm now exposed, and crucially, now his mask broken and revealing one of his dangerous eyes, as with a cold look he would let out, "You will pay a far dearer price than whatever the priest had in mind now, boy. Do as you like with these lower gods, but make a fool of one of the five, and you will pay for eternity, my friend." Immediately leading to Madara rushing in now point blank at a stood still Vegito with his right leg fully pulled back. Off with your head! Managing to land straight on what appears as the God Killer's face for devastating impact. That is of course until the true impact is seen, with the giggling Vegito's neck bent to the side, but an unbothered look showing us just how little the attack did as he quips, "Off with my head? You're lucky to itch my ear with something like that. Have you gotten weaker or something? I don't remember you being so pathetic." "What? How dare you!" In a flash triggering Madara, who remains pushing his leg harder and harder, hoping to budge Vegito even an inch, while the still smiling Vegito would just look him dead in the eyes and let out, "Wait, that's not all you've got, is it? Come on, do something actually entertaining." What a disappointment you are, Madara. Guts will be rolling in his grave. Before instantly grabbing onto Madara's prone leg, before sweeping his grip back in a stance, ready to throw him like a shot put, as he says crassly, "Perhaps it's time you join him there." Suddenly then throwing the legendary second of the five with vicious force straight down once again, as the helpless Madara can barely do a thing, shooting down directly to the ground like a laser beam, within nanoseconds shaking the very core of what's left of the planet. But once again, though there is an eerie silence under the rubble at first, it's not long before Madara Madara, in an intoxicated rage, would burst out even more damage than ever before. And now, with his entire face unmasked for the first time, his true emotional anger now being finally visible. As once his face calms back down, as he stands surrounded in electricity, through gritted teeth, he lets out, "You. This joke has gone on long enough. I don't remember the last time I ever even felt the cold air on my skin. But your death will be colder, God Killer. Whatever's going on here cannot be allowed. A mere mortal contending with me. This has to be some form of trick. The same you used to defeat Guts, no doubt. If only I still had my sword. This battle would already be over." And for a moment, with this statement uttered, there's a period of silence as Madara stands before the menacingly tall Titan. But from within, Vegito, now showing his same side, grows curious over Madara's claims, as he inquires, "Even after seeing the clear difference in our powers, you still underestimate me so much that you think it's just because you're missing your sword? Do you really believe the utter garbage you're spouting out, or are you trying to make me angry?" But Madara, now smiling cunningly back at Vegito, would then respond, "Oh, most definitely, my young friend. There isn't a shade of doubt in my mind. You'd be finished if I had my legendary blade back with me. I have mastered the art of swordsmanship over millions of years. There isn't a warrior alive who could best me when a katana is in my possession. You forget, those same sword skills you were so impressed by from Guts were all just the meager teachings I gave him while he studied under me. This isn't even a question. After all, you do remember what happened the last time you attacked me with my blade in hand, don't you, God Killer?" As behind Madara, a flashback is then seen to the moment the second instantly beheaded Vegito, the first time they ever clashed. And in final response, the God Killer would then curiously begin biting onto the glove of his left hand, slowly pulling on it until finally completely removing it and revealing his bare arm. Until suddenly, with his glove still in mouth, muffling his tones, Vegito would hold out his palm straight towards Madara with his energy absorption device on full show. This immediately alarming the second as he changes stance into one which is presumably defensive, as he yells back, "So, your response is just to blast me from all the way up there, huh? Cowardly move, mortal. But fine. Sword or not, I will still find a way to expose your weakness. You are nothing to me!" But as Madara rants on his assumptions, meanwhile, the shape of the giant energy apparition in the distance begins to distort, until beginning to suddenly fade away from the legs and arms first, and then finally, near completely, as it disappears into a swirl that seems to be centered all around Vegito. And of course, once we zoom in closer, we see the reasoning become obvious, as through his energy absorption device, ULTRA Vegito takes in all of the energy that Madara had released to create the Titan. And eventually, nothing is then left, as everything vanishes in a puff of smoke. Delicious! With Vegito's own palm being red hot and smoking itself from just how quick and concentrated the energy absorption was, before then placing back on his glove with the lowest of urgency. Leaving Madara now open-mouthed, having seen this technique for the first time, as he comments, "This vile creature! So this is what you meant by tasting my energy. You can absorb it. Yet another thing you have stolen from me. Enjoy it while you can, but I warn you, that wasn't even a fraction of my true power." But nonchalantly, as Vegito with his folded arms descends to the ground with a muffled thud, he would just then say, "Oh, I know that. Would be a bit embarrassing if that was any real percentage of your energy, because I barely felt it. That might be because now your energy is meaningless to me, or maybe it's because you haven't got that little toothpick of yours to attack me with. And if that's what you think, who am I not to believe you?" "Tell me, Madara, are you a righty or a lefty?" Before, without any hesitation, Vegito suddenly lifts his arm to grab onto his right horn and then... With a raucous scream straight out of the pits of hell, Vegito's entire face becomes covered in veins, as he seemingly begins yelling as if putting all his energy and strength into one mystery action. Huh? Now what is this freak doing? Another transformation? Panicking Madara as he begins to step back from the sudden change in mannerism from Vegito. Come on! As soon, something very interesting begins to be seen as Vegito slowly pulls out his horn until... Once fully pulled out, with a splatter of blood, what is inexplicably revealed is an entire katana at the base of the horn, covered in black lightning, as a disorientated Vegito just lets out... Well, that's going to hurt in the morning. What is he? Leaving Madara now even more gobsmacked at what this supposed mortal can do, as he watches on wide-eyed, just muttering out incoherent sounds until... Here! I believe this will be a suitable replacement for what you had. It's imbued with half of my energy after all, so consider it evening the playing field. And just like that, Madara quickly grabs onto the handle as if second nature, peering at it from the side of his eye with curiosity, taking in its obvious power. And now as silent as a baby given its dummy, Madara would then hold up the blade and stare down, assessing its quality before saying, "Fine craftsmanship. The materials seem high quality too. This is the work of a mortal." Before seemingly all his confidence returns, as he pulls back the sword and stares at the now one-horned Vegito, and then saying, "So, you say this blade contains half your power? Well, let us see if you're bluffing or not. Somehow, I don't think I should be trusting one as demonic as you. Let's see what this thing can do!" As instantly, in a strange sword stance, the second then swipes his new blade with full power, striking nothing. But once we see things from Vegito's perspective, even with just a swipe in the air, a huge current of sharp wind rushes straight for an unmoving Vegito. And with Vegito's hair blowing in all directions, and rubble crackling on his body as the airstream gets closer and closer to him, Vegito would say, "I told you so," before vanishing just in time. And then reappearing as just a stream of air from that one swipe leads to a massive mountain behind being sliced clean in half. As Vegito then asks with a smirk, "So, Does it meet your requirements then? Will I finally be able to see this true power of yours, Mr. Second? And Madara, now enthralled with his new weapon, would not even pay any mind to Vegito, as he would stare into the blade and with a smile say, "Oh yes, this will meet the job and then some. I do believe you've made a grave mistake here, Vegito. It seems once again you let your overconfidence create your downfall. And now I'm ready to put you down for eternity. Forget what that priest wants. I can deal with him later. I'm erasing you from existence here and now." As immediately, with his body contorted into his signature sword stance, the maskless Madara displays a quietly confident smirk, knowing full well in his mind how this battle will now go. Now that's the spirit! But as Madara's confidence grows, Vegito's enthusiasm does too. As with his arms folded once again, almost looking down at the second, he would simply just say, "Come then, I haven't got all day." With not a moment in vain, Madara would then blast off at Vegito with fury in his eyes, and his now demonic sword in hand. While Vegito himself would just begin angling his body forward with a cocky smirk, readying himself for battle, even with his arms still folded. But just as Madara slashes his blade, Vegito, even with half energy, dodges perfectly, still not letting go of his hands as he smirks and comments, "Oops, just missed me there, friend. Why don't you try again? Maybe you've grown a little rusty in the few minutes you've been without a blade. Right, Sword Master?" Shut up! Shut up! Triggering Madara mid-attack, he soon begins to doubt himself, thinking, what happened there? The strike was pin perfect. Timing, movement, speed, it couldn't get any better. Was that just a fluke? It has to be! Just die! As now enraged and losing himself from within, Madara would swing aimlessly and with acute ferocity in every direction, while Vegito, still with his arms folded, would dodge everything like playing with a mere child. To think, you may have actually put an end to me if you hadn't shown me that nightmare. What a horrific thing to do. And you think you gods are righteous, forcing me to see my loved ones die over and over, while I could do nothing but stand and watch. That wasn't nice, Madara. That wasn't nice at all! Before, with a slight hint of anger in his tone, Vegito would launch his legs straight through Madara's torso once again, leaving the second to spit out blood and almost pop his eyeballs straight out of his head. But this time, Madara isn't sent for a crash landing, but instead skids back on the soles of his feet, grabbing onto his chest in pain, before in an exhausted state letting out, This can't be happening to me. This is like fighting a real S-tier demon. Something isn't adding up here. But as Vegito watches on with an air of patronization, he would cockily comment, "Oh, my dear Madara, when will you let go of this ego that you have from being a so-called god, and just accept this absolute gulf between our power levels? Our difference in strength was never anything to do with your weapon. but everything to do with your pathetic existence. Those who talk down to the gods will meet their fate one day, and if I can't be the one to do it with my abilities, then I shall destroy you along with this planet! Immediately then launching his blade downwards, straight into the planet's surface, knowing with the blade's power, the whole planet would blow instantly. But just as the blade reaches mere centimeters away from impact... What? Standing there unbelievably, as if having teleported, the God Killer uses his own foot as a shield against the planet, not grimacing in the slightest, despite the confirmed sharpness and power of the blade. And as Vegito looks into the fear-stricken face of Madara, looking down on him, he unfolds his arms and says with a concerted smile, "Tut tut, what a brainless resort from you. But I guess it's to be expected of such reckless gods, so desperate to not be one-upped by the mortals they spit on. Unfortunately for you, one of you silly deities already tried to pull that dirty trick on me once, and I won't be falling for it again. Don't you dare compare me to those low-life destroyers! The now crazed Madara fruitlessly try once again to slaughter Vegito, not remembering seconds ago how impossible the task will be. Enough, little piggy! But before Madara can embarrass himself any further, Ultra Vegito sheds a tear of mercy and punches him in the solar plexus immediately, knocking the wind straight from within him. And left coughing in pain and agony now on his knees, he can only mutter one word. How? But as Vegito walks closer and Madara tries to use his katana to keep himself upright, Madara will then finally let out, "Wait! Before you take my energy, mortal, just as you did my students, allow me one request. I have one last gift for you before I go. A gift I wanted to give Guts. But you as the one who bested both he and I, is more deserving of it." And Vegito, looking down proudly like a god himself, would then respond, "Of course. Unlike you gods, I know the meaning of mercy. Say your final words and feel free to give me this gift. I'm sure I shall treasure it always." And just as Vegito says this, Madara takes his chance and immediately grabs onto the arms of the unmoving Vegito. And for a second, there is an air of curiosity as Vegito remains still, just watching as Madara tries his best. But as the second looks up and continues, "Sorry for the abrupt grab. I just need to look you in the eyes as I give you this." To which a cold and unbothered Vegito will just respond, "Go on then. I'm waiting." Demon flames! As suddenly, as Madara shouts out this call, his eyes change once again and leak blood, as Vegito is instantly caught on fire with what seems an intense black fire, soon engulfing his entire face in nanoseconds before ending the God Killer's life as his whole face is burned away instantaneously, left with nothing but a singed skull still burning in what seems like unending flames. I knew it! I knew I could do it! Call yourself a demon, then you will burn like one. These flames will burn for as long as I live. Sealed straight from the demon realm, You grew cocky, God Killer, and that is why... But soon, the immense pure serotonin the second was experiencing is cut short, as a horrific sight then stares him back in the face. What? I thought you were going to give me a gift, friend. Hurry up. I feel like it's getting a little hot here. Leaving Madara with nothing to say but whimpers and cowering breaths, looking at what could only be described as his worst nightmare. And soon, Vegeta would then just grab onto the skull of Madara, bleeding and crying from his eyes, with both hands and say lovingly, "Oh, you poor little thing! You look like you've seen a ghost. How about I just put you to sleep now, so you can forget all about it?" And just like that, within seconds, Madara would fall to his knees, and then eventually face first onto the ground, now deceased, with all his energy given by God. And with that done, from the still burning skull of Vegito, pink goo would begin to form around his chin. As he slowly then begins laughing, the goo would then formulate around his skull. Until soon forming the perfect shape of his face, and then...
I am unstoppable!
As with the flames now all gone and covered in black lightning, Ultra Vegito would stand good as new once again without a scratch on him. Now truly immortal with the power of Boo. But as this scene takes place, curiously, it begins being watched on a familiar screen. And then when we see the petite Zeno smiling as he watches, he would then innocently comment, "Wow! Son Goku has got even stronger! Amazing! And now he looks even more cool!" But as Zeno says this, a visibly annoyed Grand Priest would carefully slam his palms onto the table, looking with his side eye, careful to not show his anger to the Omni King, and says, "Yes, so very cool. Seems Madara made one too many mistakes, but I guess that is to be expected by one of the two weakest in the five. The rest will not fail. I promise that." But Zeno, with a strange look on his face, would have other plans, and reply, I'm not sure I want to see that die. I think Goku will just win again. I want to see something different. I think I should send one of the guards to fight him." What? As instantly, on reaction to one of the most unexpected lines in the whole story, both of the Omni King's guards and the Grand Priest stepped back in pure disbelief over what they had just heard, and now leave us wondering what on earth will happen to Ultra Vegito now. And if you made it to the end and want more, leave me a hashtag Manga letter and watch it for free right now on mangaletter.com. Just use the links in the pinned comment and description, enter your name and email, and you will receive a special link to never before seen manga seconds later. Make sure to check your spam or junk folder if you can't see it, and use an active email, as emails which are not your main will automatically be removed.